Update. My male 27 wife, female 26, lost her job after leaving early numerous times out of concern for her friends, female 26. Mental health after her miscarriage. But when I tried to talk to her, she made me out to be the enemy. Original post. My wife and I have been married for 3 years, and we don't have any kids at the moment. We want to have kids in the near future, but as of right now, my wife is really struggling, and I don't know what to do to help her. My wife Liz has a best friend Lauren who she's known since high school. But ever since 2 years ago, Lauren has been going through a lot. Lauren had a miscarriage a couple of years back, and Liz told me that it was one of the things that led her to eventually divorce with her husband. Lauren was depressed for some time, and Liz would come over after work to comfort her and get her out of the home. And she even said that Nick, Lauren's husband, had asked her to do so too since Lauren wasn't being receptive to him. Nick would pay for activities for them to do, such as movies or concerts, and I would pay for some as well. I didn't know Lauren especially well. But after inviting them over for dinner a few times, I felt like I began to know them more too. But when Lauren would tell my wife about how Nick would try to offer to do things with her too, Lauren would usually refuse them and his suggestions to splurge on herself, to do her hair and make herself feel nice every once in a while. Liz tried to tell her that while she'll be there for her, that she should also confide in her husband to do things with him too. But she said that Lauren just felt guilty among other things. And there were a handful of fights that they had too. Fights where Lauren would tell Liz that she erupted at Nick for suggesting activities to her that she didn't want to do. Fights that Liz honestly felt that Lauren was in the wrong about, because she was constantly resenting him. One of the fights happened when Nick brought her flowers and offered to take her out to dinner for her birthday, only for Lauren to snap at him because she wasn't in the mood. When Liz asked if he had already purchased the reservation before asking her, she said that he didn't and that he should have known she wasn't in the mood, and she refused to take the flowers too. The other fight they had was about a vacation week that Nick was planning to use, but when he asked if she wanted to go, she gave him an attitude about not wanting to. So when he said that he would use the PTO later in the year once she was feeling up to it, she got on him for not asking his friends instead. But when he said that he wanted to spend it with her, she just went off at him and told Liz about it too. Fast forward some time and Lauren and Nick are no longer together. Lauren's condition has worsened, and it's taken a toll on my wife, who has continued to spend time with her after work. I'm all for supporting her friend, but I believe that there's a point when you must also prioritize yourself. And in the beginning, my wife would be tired after going straight from work to Lauren's to comfort her, both during the miscarriage and after their divorce. But now, as Lauren has continued to struggle more than a year after the miscarriage, and refused Liz's suggestion to try therapy, once with her husband and even after the divorce, Lauren has begun to make concerning statements about feeling like she might end it, and other stuff like that. And we were recently having lunch with another couple we know where Lauren texted her something similar, and Liz couldn't enjoy herself. I totally understand that. And on that day, she expressed that she needed to leave to make sure that Lauren was alright. And this was towards the first few times that Lauren began saying that. However, while driving away, Liz called Lauren, who then said she didn't mean it. And Liz was somehow able to make her feel better on the phone to the point where it was unnecessary for her to come over anymore. So, while I was relieved, but not completely convinced that she was fine, I told Liz that maybe she should go over just to make sure. But Liz said it was fine, and I trusted her with that since she knows her better. However, I also told her that while Lauren is her friend, she can't let her weigh her down when she's enjoying herself. Like at lunch or other times we had plans and sacrificed them to be there for Lauren. And that if Lauren refuses to get help time and time again, there's only so much you can do, and you still have to live your life. And while she said that she agreed in the moment, it's gotten a lot worse the past few weeks at work, to the point where she lost her job, and I'll try to explain why. Ever since the day when Lauren said she might end it at lunch, my wife has stopped telling me about the specifics like she used to. And while I understand that she never had to include me in the complicated details between her and her friend, it started to affect her at work consistently, to the point where she's left work early to check on her over concerning messages that she no longer wants to show me. And I only found out about it because she was fired. She had a full-time job, but after she was fired after several warnings and nights where she'd come home and be distressed while not telling me why when I asked, she finally told me that she's been leaving early to visit Lauren, and finally showed me a bunch of similar messages to end it from the other day. She's really been affected by Lauren's condition a lot. However, I told her that's not an excuse for the lack of communication, and I told her that over the past few weeks too, ever since she started to somewhat ghost me at home for apparently what I said after the lunch. She showed me messages that pretty much proved she was going over there, as well as many calls that happened in her car during work hours too. However, we have bills to pay, and while I figured that maybe she was just down and stressed from work when she went quiet, she began blaming me for Lauren's condition of late and saying that I encouraged her to neglect Lauren when that's not the case. I told her I don't think Lauren is a healthy friend because she's always affecting her mood even when they're not together. Not to mention how she refused to seek therapy or better herself over a year since the miscarriage. However, she now sees me as the enemy because of those comments, and I don't know how to make her stop ignoring me late again. I felt scared to tell her not to see Lauren anymore after we left the luncheon, because of the possibility of cutting off Lauren's only support, and having her maybe do something like she said and having that on my conscience. But I'm starting to second-guess myself after everything that's happened, and I just want to ask what I should do from here since she's not talking to me, and thinks I'm not supportive of Lauren's condition, and I really feel like I'm losing her. From not eating dinner with me to not talking to me for long stretches, she sees me as the enemy and I don't know what to do. Top advice before reading the update. You need to be brutally honest with your wife. She is not helping Lauren. She is enabling her. And the way she is going about enabling her is wrecking her own mental health, has wrecked her job, and is on its way to wrecking your marriage. That what Lauren is going through sucks hardcore, but your wife is not helping by allowing this to continue. Tell her that if she doesn't believe you, then she should speak to a therapist herself to find out what is an acceptable level of help versus what is enabling someone to not deal with her own problems. Tell her that the next time Lauren sends a text threatening self-harm, she should immediately call emergency services in Lauren's area. Tell them she's made a threat to hurt herself, and that she'd like them to do a welfare check on her. Then she needs to tell Lauren that she will help emotionally support her while she starts therapy, but that therapy is a must for your wife to continue supporting her. If your wife won't draw a line, you may need to draw the line yourself, before your wife lets Lauren drown all of you. I completely agree with you. And when I told her that she can't let Lauren's text suck the life out of her when she's enjoying something like the luncheon, and quickly ruin her mood by demanding to leave, I was afraid to be more adamant about staying in case something did happen with Lauren, which would make my wife resent me for a long time. I regret that now. And while I did kinda say what I meant the same day, I should have been more adamant about it, and I was wrong to say it lightly. I recently told her that Lauren was also wrong in some of the ways that she began to neglect her husband, who was trying to comfort her too, along with how Liz isn't a replacement for Lauren's husband. I didn't want to come off as controlling, and I was afraid of something happening after putting my foot down too lightly after the luncheon. But I agree with setting the boundaries for going forward starting from now that you mentioned if she'll be open to hearing them. And if not and she continues to make me the enemy, then I'll take it from there. I've been in your wife's position before where I somehow became the only support for a friend who was very mentally unwell. It was making me miserable, but I was too focused on keeping her safe to see it. My partner kept telling me it wasn't healthy and I kept ignoring him because she needed me. For me, the realization came when I was very ill and couldn't get out of bed, and somehow still ended up on the phone with her social worker trying to assess whether she needed an ambulance/mental health crisis team while she was nonverbal and communicating with me solely in cat emojis. I realized that I was putting myself at risk for a relationship I got nothing out of, because she never supported me when I was also struggling. She sent me a message the next day apologizing, and I responded saying that I was unwell and had too much on my own plate to be the person she turned to for support right now. She immediately blocked me and everything, and we haven't spoken since. The point I'm trying to make is that in my experience, you telling your wife that this relationship is unhealthy and damaging her life is not going to get through to her, because it is so hard to get over the idea that you are the only thing standing between this person and death. It is so hard to let go of the belief, which is not true by the way, that if you set boundaries and they actually do it, even if you know the chances of that are tiny, you'll be responsible. Essentially, she's now putting you in the same position for her, as she is in with Lauren. She is going to drag you down with her unless you set your own boundaries for how much of this you will tolerate. Maybe therapy or divorce will be the thing that snaps her out of it. Maybe it won't. But you can't spend the rest of your life catering to Lauren when she refuses to help herself. I'll ask her about therapy again despite already trying once, only to be ignored. I offered going together or even alone for her, including encouraging her to suggest it to Lauren too. But after I said what I said about how Lauren has become too demanding, she's seen me as the enemy since, and has been unwilling to talk to me in my own home. Not to mention showing no plan to look for new jobs, or file for unemployment and expecting me to pay the bills after saying that I can't afford it while she recovers, which is just another bag of worms. I'll ask her again to see if she'll be willing to talk about therapy and where we go from here. But given her silent treatment, I'm not confident that she'll want to talk at all. And if she doesn't, I'm thinking that that might be her answer in being done with our relationship. And now for the update. A lot of people said that the proper word that describes her relation to Lauren is codependent, and I honestly agree. Some suggested that I leave for a few days to take a break and think about what I'm getting out of the relationship post Lauren's miscarriage that sparked a dramatic behavior change in my wife. However, the suggestion that I decided to follow was talking to her once more and telling her where I stand and seeing where we both stand on the matter. So that conversation is why I'm updating. I echoed what someone said about how Liz could be enabling Lauren from wanting to seek therapy when she knows that she can call her at any time. And I also told her that lying by leaving early was wrong too. I also told her that we needed to discuss her next job, but she said that she'll get it when she wants to because it's my fault that she had to sneak around in the first place. And she also disclosed something new. She said that she's an empath and that she and Lauren are pretty much the same person. So when I criticized Lauren, I was criticizing her. She also said that I am someone who doesn't prioritize mental health because I criticized Lauren, and that if she hadn't lied and sacrificed her job to be with her, Lauren might not be here, and it would be my fault. So she said that paying for the bills was the least I can do because I don't care about Lauren at all, completely forgetting how I cooked for them numerous times and bought them movie tickets among other things, and sometimes with my own money too. Before I could even say more once she got started, she said that she's been talking about me to Lauren a lot and that I'm no better than her ex-husband and that she wants out and there's no changing her mind. Honestly, when we were going to talk, I wasn't expecting her to lay into me like that. I didn't expect it to be roses, but I really didn't expect her to get at me like that. I've been depressed myself lately and trying to push through, but we are in the process of getting a divorce because that's what she wanted, and I've also taken some time off for myself too. I've just started therapy, but the divorce process hurts and still hurts honestly. But that's pretty much it. I'm back working, but it still hurts. I'm playing a lot more games than I usually do at home, and a few of my friends have been really comforting. But it hurts. I don't want to ask for any advice on moving on from such an ugly end to everything if anyone has any suggestions. But that's pretty much it. She was done before I could even get that far. I'd even push for counseling together like someone else suggested too. Hey, I remember your first post. I'm really sorry that things ended up going down this way. I was afraid this is where this was headed. She was in deep into the codependency and enabling, and they were clearly co-poisoning each other's heads about marriage and husbands. Know that there is nothing you could have done differently to prevent this outcome. Your wife has mental health issue. Codependency is a mental health issue, and it parallels addiction in many ways. Your wife's mental health issues led her to choose an emotionally unhealthy relationship where she felt needed, over a healthy one where she didn't. You cannot blame yourself for being healthy. That was not a fault. You are young and you will bounce back from this. Let yourself feel your grief and anger. Those are normal things to feel right now. Invest your friendships and hobbies. Do what you can to make time pass, even if that's video games. But try to make sure you're socializing and exercising too, so you don't fall into a trap where you neglect yourself or your life. I'm so sorry you went through this. Trying to push through it while also working on some other aspects right now too. Would love to find some new hobbies as well. She also began telling some of our mutual friends about me being against mental health as well, so it's been weird with some friends, and some who wanted less to do with me since. So I'm trying to start over and maybe find some new ones eventually, which seems easier said than done at the moment, but hopefully soon as I have few good ones right now. Obviously you aren't against mental health. You're against enabling behavior, being codependent to the point where you lose your job, and untrained people pretending they are therapists. You know there's always some bleeding of the friendships when a divorce happens, and people make unexpected choices. But make sure you get your story out there and counter the false narrative. Like make sure people know your wife was literally fired because she wouldn't stop enabling this friend and wasn't capable of drawing healthy boundaries. Well, your ex-wife and her best friend are made for each other. If it's any comfort, those two are not going to lead happy lives. They were friends long before we started dating going back to high school, so perhaps there was no coming between them at all. She knew Lauren before she met me too. I've told a few friends my side, and some have stayed with me. It's just insane how fast everything changed. Your marriage was lost when she uttered, before it was us, it was them. I'm so sorry for your man, but I strongly recommend therapy for yourself to help deal with all this. Also stand your ground on the house and everything. She threw away the marriage, not you. Recently started, like very recently. What hurts more now is just the loss of friends who she was able to convince to her side, or maybe told them a different version. I don't know. I lost one good friend or someone I thought to be a good friend, and maybe they'll come back. But it would have been cool to help me find stuff to do, although I have family and a few others who can help with that. But it hurts for now to friends part. I'm so sorry, but this may be the best outcome for you. Your wife was lost to you long before this. Now you can work on your own mental health. You can move forward without the stress and worry of an absent/toxic partner. It's just crazy how fast everything happened over the course of a little over a year. How do I, 36 male, make my wife, 38 female, tell me who is sending food to her at her workplace on a daily basis? Original post. Details? This is a first. Since in 10 years together, there hasn't been a single jealousy-induced fight, since neither of us are of the jealous type. I was cheated pretty bad by another person. She knows this and knows I'm insecure about it. So we both are pretty open about our friends and families to avoid misunderstandings between us. Until she started to get all secretive with this specific matter. She stopped eating the food I cook for her because someone pays for her food now. The catch? There aren't any coworkers in her office. She does consultation at her own little one-person place, and everything else is managed off-site by the company she's working for. Now, why am I making a big deal out of it? It was not a big deal, till it was. I was super happy for her because maybe some client were so satisfied with the service that they sent her food in gratitude. It was a bi-monthly occurrence at best, and she used to tell me, "Hey, this client sent me some Starbucks. Nice." Or, "Wow, other client's mother made me a sandwich and some Jell-O." But then it became bi-weekly, and then she stopped knowing who sent her the now expensive food. And nowadays it's daily. She always returns my food to me when she gets home, gone all bad because she didn't eat any. I don't make a big deal, but I stopped making jokes about it like, "Hey, tell them to send some for me too," or things like that, because it started to annoy me that she doesn't eat my food and let it go bad. I'm a pretty good cook and I hate wasting food. And it got weird when she started to show off that the food someone sent to her is better, meaning costly and restaurant made. It started as an annoyance about wasting food, but what triggered my insecurity about this is that one day after she sent me the usual picture, I told her, "Surprise, I went ahead and sent you that from my place." And she replied all annoyed, "Haha, funny. I know it wasn't you." Wink. Ask her, "Who is it then?" Her answer, I don't know." So she doesn't believe it was me, but doesn't know who it was. The second catch? They always send her things pretty specific to her likings. I may be paranoid, but most items she gets are things that she has to tell someone she likes, since it is not generic expensive food, but menu items catered to her palate, or drinks prepared exactly how she likes them. She could be ordering herself, but she denies it, like it would kill her to tell me. She knows I don't mind. I just don't want wasting food. If she's ordering food for herself, why doesn't she tell me? I told her it wouldn't be a problem since that way I can save food at home and won't wake up as early, but she still denies and still doesn't know who it is. It's the first time I get this type of treatment from her. Why be so secretive about some food? She knows it gets worse if you hide this type of deals instead of being just open about it. Like, it's some weird client obsessed with sending me food, or it's my mom/brothers/friends/the company. She could have lied like that, and it would be enough to stop me from asking her every time, "Nice, but who is sending you this?" And instead, decided being all mysterious and mischievous about it. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Nobody is sending food, especially expensive food, to their friend every single day. Whoever is doing it is romantically interested in her. And she fully knows who it is. Don't be naive. She won't tell you who, because she either likes the food, likes the attention, or both. Hopefully there's nothing more going on than some free food. Right? I tried to not obsess over it, but she started getting super secretive knowing that's an obvious trigger for me, and overall people who has been cheated. Instead of just telling the truth or even lying. I would have instantly believed anything she told me if that was the case, and despite knowing that, she still decides to be secretive. Damn, I'll even be fine if she outright tells me, "Look, it's some guy/gal that seems to have feelings for me. Don't worry, I'm just in for the food." And she fully knows I won't have any problem with it. That's how much I trust her. What I don't like are the little secret tee-hee like that, because I get paranoid about it. You need to sit down with her and tell her that this secretive thing isn't funny anymore, and it's making you really skeptical and making you feel unsafe in your own relationship. If her response is to call you insecure and not explain herself, then the answer is right in your face. Yeah, I'll do this later when she gets home. If she says, okay, it's me, meaning she's buying for herself, have her show you the receipts. Otherwise, she's gaslighting you to get you off her back. And if that's the case, you may have bigger problems on your hands. Had she tell me that at the very start of this issue, I wouldn't snoop more. But at this point, you are right. If she tells me that now, I'll be asking for receipts. Mini update. She's about to come home in an hour or so I'll try to talk to her seriously one last time before getting matters onto my own hands. I don't like snooping, but most of you recommend I will have to if I want some real answers, even if it means hiring a PI or following people around. I'll update whenever I can after the allowed time. Now for the first update. So, this isn't worth its own post. It went begrudgingly faster than I anticipated. I'm with a friend right now. Ask him for some space so I could write a little, or a ton, and tomorrow I'll be at my parents'. Believe it or not, I'm not angry or destroyed or any of that. I'm just sad and tired and want to puke, and want to write something to vent. You're also not gonna believe this. To the person who told me this is almost like a sitcom, WTF, this is freaking sitcom? You were right, and you'll see why soon. I told and asked her some of the things some of you told me I could say to her before starting my own investigation. I'm a calm person, so usually, doesn't matter the topic, a talk about it never comes as rude. This is important because I don't want you to think that I screamed at her or something like that. I don't want you to picture me as a saint, but I'm as non-violent as a person can be. Her reaction was as bizarre as this whole crap. Long story short, or a short story long, I asked her why she is accepting food from strangers, and she started verbally abusing me. Don't worry if you don't believe me. It came out of nowhere. It's like she exploded out of freaking nowhere. As I wrote in another comment, yeah, we fight like any couple, but she never abused me or insulted me or my family. Again, this was a first. I guess I was not pressing enough for asking the right questions, because I never got this reaction from her before. One of the things she screamed at me was something like, "Why the heck are you pestering me? I bet you never knew a freaking surprise in your whole childhood." No, scratch that. I know you never had a freaking surprise in your whole childhood. So now whenever I get a gift, you get all jealous. Is that it, right? Then she started iterating how my parents were awful at raising me and everything. I told her that was unprovoked and that I just wanted her to be careful when eating outside. Even more so if she didn't know where the food comes from. I'll repeat myself as many times as necessary. We never fought like this. In 10 years, she never screamed at me or insulted me like this. I told her to please not insult me or my parents because I'm just trying to talk. She screamed, "Then what the hell do you want from me?" And guys, I told her the stupidest thing ever, to please eat my food, or tell me whenever you are gonna eat outside so I won't cook. Her answer? Then don't freaking cook for F's sake. I asked her to please stop screaming at me and told her that it wasn't like that. I was concerned that she was receiving food without knowing the source, and I didn't like wasting food. At this point, I was still acting as if everything was about her not eating my food. The whole interchange lasted less than 15 minutes, but it was enough to trigger her like I've never seen before in 10 years. Follow-up update a few hours later. So, she was seeing an ex from years ago. This chick started to send her not only food, but gifts, because suddenly she wanted to reignite stuff or whatever. But no, it wasn't sudden at all. They started just talking like 8 years ago, and the gifts started a couple years ago too. Wife got bi-curious because she, and I quote, wanted to taste the touch of a woman again. So they slept together multiple times since years ago. Please don't misunderstand me. This isn't a post about that. I'm not hating anyone for their preferences. But you don't do that when you are married. Or better yet, you talk to your partner. Hey, I'm curious about this or that. Can we do anything about it if it's good with you? Something like that. Communication. Told her so. But, I pressed for her to come full clean. Mind you, this is after 2+ hours discussing these issues. And you are also not going to believe this. After some more talking, she told me, "You want clean? I'll give you clean." Sleeping with her ex triggered a craving for different people. She slept with a male coworker of hers in a past job like 5 years ago. Slept with another male ex of hers. Slept with a chick from a club. Slept with a chick from that same job. And slept with her latest ex. all while we were already married. I asked why. Her answer? She wanted to feel wanted by everyone. Was I not enough? Hard no. Maybe if I could change the shape of my penis on command, but that wouldn't even be enough, because she wanted to try different bodies and things like that. Why marry me? I'm a good person and she wanted someone as stable as me. Why do that to a good person then? It's only sex, but it's important for me. She says, grow up. I have needs. I know it's a big deal for you, that's why I never tell you. Tell me, as in present time. Yes, she was still in contact with most of her F buddies, but more so her exes. Why not try everything she wanted, then date me, then marry me? She told me the stupidest thing. She was calling dibs on me. Guys, I didn't have any other lovers or anything. She was competing for me versus no one. I could have waited for her 1, 5, or 10 years. Told her, I'm gone then. Her answer, have fun. What did I do to you to be treated like this? Nothing, but I'm seriously tired of pretending, having to hide, lie, and you pestering me about this stuff was the last straw. She told me that if I never started to get weird about food, I wouldn't ever know, and we could still be happy. Told her it isn't my fault. She responded, I know, but you ruined your own status quo. As in, I'm happy like this. You ruined it for you by pestering me. Last question. Then why act all mysterious with the food? If she had just told me, oh, it's from the company or a friend, everything would have stayed the same. Answer? Freaking grow up, please. What the heck happened to my wife? I was never treated like this. I now know that my trust for her was so big I was blind to a bunch of signs. What signs? I still don't freaking know. But she said all that as if it was all under my nose. Why she exploded after 10 years? And why just after I started bettering myself for her? Why not before? Or later for that matter? Dude married a psychopath. Bummer. I say the mask slipped, and she went all out in showing him who she is. I think she was baiting him because she actually wanted the relationship to end, but didn't want to be the one to outright break up. Texting him everything and trying to make him jealous is definitely provoking him on her part. It's pure contempt. Her contempt for him overpowered any other emotion she had for him. Wait, if she requires multiple people, why not date a poly person? Or someone who's open to an open relationship? Why did she go for a monogamous person? Because she wanted him to be monogamous, of course. Last story. My wife said she does not owe me intimacy, plus update. And she is right. She does not owe me sex just because I am her husband, but I cannot take it anymore. Sexual incompatibility is hell. I have been busy drafting divorce documents with my lawyer this week. I believe it's best if we separate because we became incompatible after some time. 4 years of marriage, both in early 30s. Hormone test came up normal. I begged her for marriage counseling with sex therapy. I did everything she pointed out. She came with other excuses. Since the beginning of the relationship, we take turns handling laundry and dishes. For the other tasks, we have our own responsibilities for different rooms/tasks. It is not just the sexual department as well. She does not seem to be into having non-sexual intimacy either recently. Countless discussions and nothing in the end. It was not like that in the beginning, so I'm not sure what happened. Marriage counseling and sexual therapy did not work either. She seems happy in the relationship and daily life, but I am not. We had sex only 2 times since the beginning of this year. She mentioned we should try having kids at the beginning of this week, and I got annoyed. What am I? Something kept for only breeding? I will give her the divorce notice documents next Monday, and I am torn the relationship will end like that. I'll also leave the house as soon as possible. However, I am sure I'm doing both of us a favor in the long run. We should separate before having kids. Just wanted to vent and get opinion from a neutral point of view. Now for the top comments before reading the update. That's crazy she's considering having kids with you, and you were considering divorce. 2 people living together yet so far apart. Yeah, it's the most messed up thing in this. That's crazy to me, especially as they had therapy and nothing changed. Why would you want to have kids with a man you know isn't happy? Maybe she thinks he'll stick around with a kid, or that will placate him? A kid would just give her more reasons to not want to have sex though, or his wife has zero awareness of how unhappy OP is. Regardless, it's best if they split up. Having a low libido and being asked for sex often can cause resentment on both sides. Thank you for not bringing kids into this marriage. It is obvious the resentment would grow even more in the future. Having a child in that environment would be such a cruel thing to do. When you hand her the papers, do not, I repeat, do not sleep with her. One poster did that, and she ended up pregnant. He did one thing we all tell people not to do. He didn't want to leave after that. Sure enough, sex stopped right after the revelation. Stick to your guns if you're going to do this. Get ready for the hysterical bonding. It's coming. She's going to be all over you and promising change. Once she's comfortable that you're back, it will go back to the way it was, with most likely a child on the way. Now for the update. She got the notice papers this Monday and she was shocked. I explained her in detail and thoroughly why I came to that decision. I pointed out every previous discussion we had, how there were no efforts from her side, and we are simply incompatible in the end. There was crying and arguments again. I also told her I would be going back to my hometown to settle in my premarital house. It was my mom's, but after she passed away, we shared it 50-50 with my sister, though I gave my share to my sister later. We had to move to our current city due to my wife's job. A lot happened that day, but I will not give details as they were mostly personal. Next day, I started packing important things, and out of a sudden, my wife became the most sexual person on the planet. She came to me with lingeries, toys, costumes, and approached me. I am going to be honest, I had a very hard time resisting, but rejected her advances every time. She is the woman I love and desire after all, but I do not think staying in this marriage will be healthy for either of us. I am currently staying at a hotel with my important belongings. I changed my passwords and handled other shared things. My sister will come next week to get me, and I believe I'll be staying at her place in our hometown for a while. At least until beds and furniture are delivered to the house. Some Redditors pointed out that she may be cheating on me, but she did not give me a reason to be suspicious of. I trust her fully. I just wish we were more compatible in the intimacy department. She is trying to reach out to me, but I reject her calls and do not read her texts. I may need a few days of peace and silence to get myself ready for everything upcoming. Thank you for the advices and suggestions on the last thread. Take care. Well done for being strong when she confronted you with everything you had been wishing she would. That was a good choice. Giving in would have prolonged this cul-de-sac in both of your lives and caused lots of harm in the end. The hardest part of someone changing is knowing they could have been doing it the whole time, but they chose not to. They didn't care when it was hurting you, only when it hurts them. Yeah, this is what Opie needs to remember more than anything. She was perfectly capable of turning on the sexual charm but chose not to until it affected her. I commented on your previous post where I told you she'd suddenly want to work on intimacy once she was served. I am happy you didn't succumb to her attempts. It is not genuine. It is a facade, and she will keep this up. Be strong and don't fall for it. It is just a surface-level attempt at giving you what you wanted all the time you were married. It's the panic at work. Once the foundation of a thing has broken, you can't just catch up on maintenance. And it's a lesson people discover time and time again. Even if they genuinely want to fix things, it's too late. Horses have bolted, buses left. Update. My male 50 wife female 48 abandoned me to find herself. Original post. My wife Mary's family has a history of dementia, developing memory issues in their mid to late 50s. Her mom, grandmother, and several other relatives on her mom's side have developed dementia. Her mom lived with us for 4 years until earlier this year. Her father is deceased. Our kids are independent and out of the house. Oldest is in her last semester of college, and our younger enlisted. The last 4 years were tough on us. Our kids. Daughter moved for college but moved back for a bit during COVID. And our marriage. Living with someone with dementia is brutal. We had talked a lot last year about taking the remaining college funds, our regular savings, sell or rent the house as we were ready to downsize anyway, quit our jobs and travel for a year or until the money runs out. We just had to wait for her mom to move into a home. I understand her anxiety about developing dementia, and I was burned out. You live through COVID working remote, a wife working remote, a college and high school student taking remote classes, and a mother-in-law with dementia, and see how we hold up. Space finally opened up and we were able to move her mom into a care facility. I finally thought I had a chance to breathe. When we moved Mary's mom out, Mary's mental health took a huge downward spiral. I went from caring for her mom to caring for her. She felt guilty about putting her mom in home and had lots of anxiety about developing dementia. Our plan was to start our traveling summer 2024. But 2 months ago, I got home and she's left a note. My friends call it Exhibit A. Basically, she was going on our trip without me. She had quit her job, took most of the savings, and wasn't sure when she'd be back. Maybe a year, maybe sooner. She knew I'd understand. Her location is turned off and my calls go directly to voicemail. I texted the kids a picture of the note. We have our own checking accounts for direct deposits for our paychecks, but we'd transfer most into a joint account to pay the household bills and savings. We both had access to main savings account. We have joint credit cards we used for household expenses. The 2 cars and mortgage are joint. We both also have our own small savings accounts, our own retirement accounts, equally funded, and our own credit cards for gifts and fun things. I closed all joint cards and accounts. I waited a month to see if she'd come back, hopefully before she spent our savings. After receiving only 1 text the first month, I went to a lawyer. She basically said there was very little to do right now, other than change the beneficiaries of my retirement accounts and life insurance. Yay! My wife gets nothing else if I die alone while she's having our adventures. It was only a month and there was no way to serve her papers. My lawyer advised me to keep paying the mortgage and the cars. The cost of trying to get a judge to approve the sale of joint assets was more than making payments. I didn't want to ruin my credit by letting one of our cars get repossessed, but I can't sell it because she's on the title. I get random texts and she sporadically posts on Instagram. Of course, she has comments turned off. I want to block her so bad, but my lawyer advised me that it's better to maintain a communication channel that's not through our kids. Her last post was from Hawaii. She put in the comments how great a husband I was for letting her take this trip. I'm barely making it paying 2 cars, a mortgage, household bills, insurance, hoping there are no emergencies because I have no savings. And she's enjoying our trip? F her. I'm so mad at her. I helped take care of her mom for 4 years, and her when she fell apart after her mom moved into a memory care home, and she returns the favor by abandoning me? I'll never get to take this trip and have to put off retirement. My only solace is the kids are mad at her too, but they'll probably forgive her eventually. Double F her. I'm no fool. She's hooking up with guys. She looks good, so she'll have zero problem getting men. I texted her and asked if she was sleeping around. A week later, she responded that she wasn't. Sure. So I'm drinking alone on a Friday night and she's somewhere. Probably on a beach, enjoying life. Triple F her. Edit. My lawyer has given me a bunch of advice and options. It was just way more than I could possibly include in this post. I could definitely push the issue harder and I might need to at some point, but all that work is very expensive. Finding her, serving her, getting a judge to sign off? That's not cheap. I'm following up soon and I plan on talking about the savings and my finances. Until I paid all the bills and realized how little was left, it didn't hit me that I'd had to worry about money. Now for the top advice before reading the updates. Thanking you for letting her take this trip is basically her saying, when I get through living the single life, I'll be coming back to the comfort and security of married life. When she returns, I'd say, welcome home. Here are your walking papers. She 100% is under the delusion that she's coming back to a marriage. She's had a few conversations with our daughter, and she's convinced I'll understand and forgive her. Tell your daughter to pass along the message that you're filing for divorce for abandonment and see if this gets you some traction. I don't generally like the idea of going through kids, but they need to have your back on this. Maybe even tell her they'll cut her off as well if she keeps doing this to you and the family. Maybe even start posting about how she's living the good life and letting your friends and family know what kind of pickle this has put you in. Everyone probably assumes you're on board if you're not purposefully driving the true narrative. She only hears what she wants. I asked her to send me an address to serve her papers. She only told me that we'll work it out when she comes home. The hell we will. My daughter tells her all the pain she's causing, but she just says that she only has 5 to 10 years left until she gets dementia. It's impossible to know if she'll even develop dementia, but shouldn't she be spending this with her family? Yeah, you'd think she would. I still think that controlling the narrative online is necessary. There will be fallout resulting from the divorce if you don't get out in front of this, informing people she actually knows other than strangers on Reddit. She will make herself to look like she's a victim of a deranged and bitter husband. I think you'll get the most mileage by applying pressure through friends and family in a court. I know court is expensive, but you're going to pay one way or the other. You might as well take the hit now. Also, I'd bet a PI with good internet sleuthing skills could help you find her much faster than you think. She has to be leaving a digital footprint since she's still posting and using her phone. It's amazing what you can find out about a person if you know how to look for the information. Now for the first update half a month later. I'm feeling much more positive now that the financial situation has become a little more manageable. Basically, I'm running up debt that will get paid off when I sell the house. Even with lawyer fees, I have 6 to 8 more months before I have to worry about money, assuming there are no emergencies. My friend's wife gave me some good advice. Don't go from being a hero to a villain in your kids' eyes. How I talk about and treat my wife will determine my future relationship with my kids. I don't care about my wife, but I don't want to make her a sympathetic figure or drive them away from both of us. I followed up with a lawyer. Basically, she said we're going to have her pay back the savings she took through a reduction in her share of the assets. Any division of assets will include the savings she took. She'll also have to repay the money I spent maintaining the household while she was gone. There is plenty of equity in her share of the house and her retirement plans to cover that. She said that our finances are so intertwined after nearly 25 years of marriage, my wife is going to get some share of the assets. Best cases, she agrees to the terms of the divorce, and it's relatively cheap and quick. Otherwise, it gets complicated and expensive. She gave me a lot of options and how much I can expect to spend, so I decided to just mostly wait. I got a couple of credit cards with promo rates for purchases and transfers. That gives me breathing room and I can conserve cash. I'll just pay them off when I sell the house. Now that my financial situation is less stressful, I'm actually enjoying her being gone. I'm free to do whatever I want, whenever. I don't have to cook or clean or take care of anyone. The house is quiet for the first time since I can remember. I loved my wife, but her mental health weighed down our marriage. On balance, it was worth it until now. The first month or so, I expected her to be there whenever I'd get home. When someone was at the door or if I heard noises, I'd think it was her. I'd check doorbell cam obsessively. I'm not looking forward to her returning, but when she comes back, I'll have to deal with her. The divorce, getting the house ready to sell, dividing all our stuff, finding a new place to live. I'm hoping she'll stay away until after New Year's, but my daughter said she thinks her mom will be home for Christmas, either to stay or visit. My lawyer will have papers ready to serve her. Hopefully, she'll just agree to the terms and continue her travels. People had some great advice, renting or selling the house, which is not really feasible right now, since I'd have to fix some stuff and get it ready to sell/rent. Since I need a place to live, the amount I net each month, rent to mortgage to rent on a new apartment to storage unit, it's just not worth it. My kids' rooms are still full of their stuff, and I don't want to spend the time and effort to clear them out and put them in storage. Getting a HELOC. This was great advice. I didn't realize I didn't need both people to get a loan. If I need more money, I can go this way. In the short term, the promo rates on the credit cards were cheaper and easier than getting a HELOC. Serving my wife divorce papers or getting a divorce in absentia. This is something I might need to do eventually, but the cost in lawyer fees goes up exponentially in cases like this. I'm comfortable just waiting for now. Look at a phone bill to see where she's at and possibly going. I did look at her usage. I did notice that she doesn't post in social media until after she leaves a place. When she posted about Hawaii, she made a call that day that originated in LA. She posted about a cruise and I've figured out the dates. Tried to serve her at a port possibly, but it ended a couple of days before she posted. She tried adding international calling to her line, but I blocked it, so she removed her phone from our account. Oh my gosh, I'm infuriated on your behalf. The audacity of my husband is so great for letting me take this trip. The petty in me hopes she'll be home for Thanksgiving, because I want her world to explode. She's told her family she won't be home for Thanksgiving. Nobody told her my daughter and I are spending Thanksgiving with her family though. She can see the posts of us having a good time without her. That's petty revenge that doesn't hurt anybody. I love to see it. Your friend's wife gave you some really solid advice. Use this time while she's away to create new routines and traditions with your kids. Spend quality time with them. Encourage them to be open and be honest, within bounds, with them in return. Things will get rocky when she returns. Use this time to your advantage. And I'm glad you're feeling better. I hope you continue to heal and emotionally detach so you won't get pulled into her BS when she returns. So she's just going to blow through all the money and then assumes you'll take her back and care for her when dementia hits her? Seems to be her plan, but it's not mine. I hope her punishment is that she never gets dementia. She has to remember for the rest of her life what she did to the people she claims she cares the most about. Please change the locks on the house so she can just waltz back in while you were out one day. I'm so angry for you. I've been married for 23 years, and if my husband did this to me, God help anyone between me and him. She left her keys. I changed the code on the security system, the passphrase, and the password. I also found a new hiding place for the emergency key we had in the backyard. Now for the second update 3 months after the first post. My wife texted me in the middle of December that she'd be home for Christmas. I told her that we, our daughter and I, would be at my brother's. She obviously wasn't welcome. I'd leave her car in the driveway and the fob in the backyard. She wasn't allowed in the house unless I was there. She didn't have keys to get in, so she spent Christmas with her sister. When we got back, I met with her. I decided not to be overly confrontational because I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of thinking I cared enough to be mad. She was taken aback about how detached I was. I could tell it bothered her that I didn't show her much emotion, not even anger. I just wanted her to agree to a divorce. This is a summary of several different meetings, both with and without our daughter. She hasn't wanted to meet with her mom alone yet. I asked why she left without telling anyone. She said she didn't want to wait a year. She didn't want anyone talking her out of it. She didn't want to work anymore. She wanted to leave before her mental health got worse. I'm sure it was mostly because she didn't want me to stop her from taking the money. She knew I would take care of everything with the kids in the house when she left. We had decided to go summer of 2024 for a few reasons. Packing everything and getting the house ready to sell was going to be a lot of work. We wanted to make sure our daughter graduated college, got a job, and was settled. We wanted to make sure we had money when we got back. We wouldn't have a house, cars, or jobs, so we needed money because it would take months to find work and a place to live. We didn't want to have any worries or deal with a mess back home. At some point in our planning, she began questioning, to herself, not me, if she ever wanted to go back to our old life. She didn't want to work full-time or buy a house and stay in one place after we got back. She wasn't sure what she wanted, but she didn't think she would figure it out talking to me. I told her that's the reason we were taking the trip, to figure those things out together, to see what we wanted for the next part of our life. I asked her why didn't she just get a divorce before she left. Then she wouldn't have had to do this behind our backs, and she would have had plenty of money without stealing our joint savings. She claims that she didn't want a divorce, that she wanted us to live whatever life she figured out. I told her that's not how marriages work, one person deciding for the other. In talking/texting our daughter, her family, my texts and voicemails, she realized I might not forgive her. She was right about that. So she might have to visualize a future without me. This is where I had hoped she would say some stupid stuff, like she was going to squander all her money living in a van and make travel vlogs, or she met some guy that she needed to wire money to so they could open an ice cream shop in Alaska. Instead, she wants to be a digital nomad, working part-time, fully remote, and living in new places. She tried to convince me to go with her, but I'll never be able to trust her. Plus, I don't love her anymore. Traveling like that for a few years doesn't sound bad, but she doesn't have a job or any work lined up. She's not in her 20s, and that way of living will get old quick. No close friends, no family. I want her to make it work so she won't be here trying to get back in our lives. 1. How are the kids doing? Our son wouldn't have seen us the entire time she was gone away. He only responds to her with very short texts. He told me she wanted to see him, but he said he was too busy and wouldn't be able to get away. He lives in the barracks, so it's an easy excuse to avoid her. My daughter stopped talking/texting her. She's pretty upset. Her worry turned to anger when she realized her mom wasn't having a mental breakdown, but it was just selfish. If her mom was sticking around, they could probably work through it eventually. I just care that my daughter is happy, so whatever she decides, I'll support. 2. Did she spend all the money? About half. I think she realized she needed to figure it out before she completely ran out of money. 3. Did she sleep with anyone? I didn't ask because I didn't care. Asking would imply I wanted her back or it would matter. Even though I didn't ask, she claims she didn't. Not sure if she's lying or not. She might just be saying that because she doesn't want the kids to have another reason to be mad at her. 4. Does she feel bad for what she put us through? She claims she does, and she wishes she had handled it differently. She said getting away and figuring herself out was best for her. I told her she was just being selfish. When she first left, we were worried something would happen to her. We would never see her again. She's always been self-centered. I told her she's taking the easy route and letting everyone else handle the difficult parts. If she gets sick, kids will take care of her. Goes broke, live with family. Abandon everyone, they'll forgive her. She thinks her siblings and our children will let her live with them like we let her mom live with us. I'm sure when she visualizes her future, she sees our kids there. They might not be, and definitely not in the same way they were before. Despite how it might sound, I'm actually really happy with how it all turned out. Our divorce is far from final, but we've agreed on the big things. We'll sell the house, how to split the retirement and profit from the house, how to pay back the money she took, and what I spent maintaining the household. I got most of what I wanted from the settlement, and she'll soon be, mostly, out of my life. I won't have to pay alimony, and because she's choosing to make significantly less money than she was, I won't be forced to support her. That would have been a kick to the teeth. She isn't my responsibility anymore, and I won't have to care for her if she does get sick or goes broke. I figured I'd start dating again. I didn't realize a 50-year-old man with children out of the house, a good job, and in decent shape would be a catch. I'm not fighting women off with a stick, but I've had a lot more interest than I expected. It's been kind of nice meeting new women. I've worked out the numbers and I'll be doing pretty well after everything is settled and I only have to support myself. Not where I wanted to be. 50, getting divorced and using Reddit as free therapy sessions. But I'm happier now that I've been in a while. I'm even planning a little vacation of my own. Thank you to everyone that has responded and reached out. It meant a lot. I predict she'll be back when she starts having health problems or runs out of money. It only took her a year to burn through half of your life savings. She'll burn through whatever she gets from the divorce before 5 years are out. I know some actual digital nomads. All of them are highly skilled in some sought-after tech field, are famous media personalities, or as workers. If your soon-to-be ex-wife isn't any of those, she'll soon be run to ground somewhere. People this selfish can literally not conceive of a world where they're not the main character, and everyone drops everything they're doing to help them. I give her a few months after the divorce is settled and family has dumped her. Once she realizes that she's not the main character, she'll want to go back to OP so she can have her old life back. Nope. She might be able to convince herself she doesn't care that he won't forgive her, but there's no way she's going to be happy being cut out by her kids and the rest of her family, if that's how things ultimately pan out. All she could do is go and party around the world for a couple months and steal the money her and OP had saved together for herself. I'm sorry you have had to deal with this, OP. You handled this about as well as anyone could have expected under the circumstances. You are a good man, and your family will forever know that when the chips were down, you put them first and she didn't. There's no walking that back no matter how much she begs or tries to explain herself. The only reason she's not admitting to sleeping with someone else while on her self-discovery was how it would make her look to friends and family, knowing this will blow up relationships with the kids especially. She still had a small glimmer of hope for not getting divorced as mentioned above, until you shut it down. And most importantly, how is grounds for divorce and repercussions in said divorce depending on where you live? There is virtually no way for a person to rediscover themselves, and the process not also involve their genitals. Either way, whatever she says can't be trusted. Sir, you are a catch. For your information, don't date anyone under 30. Cheers to a new life. I just recently got everyone out of the house. I'm not dating anyone that has young kids or wants kids. Not that it would matter if they did. I took care of that a while back. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my ex that it is not my responsibility to help her? I, 31 male, have a set of twins. Violet, 16 female, and Onyx, 16 male, with my ex Trisha, 31 female. We were the definition of trailer trash. We were addicted to hard substances and dropped out of high school. Her parents had 8 kids in a 4-bedroom trailer, so we couldn't live with them, so we lived with my mom. There was DV on both ends, but because I was 6'5", I was always the problem. 2 years after our kids was born, Trisha called the cops on me when we were high and drunk. They found hard substances on me, and I got locked up for 6 years. Trisha moved on immediately with a guy from the trailer park. Her boyfriend didn't want the twins with them, so they stayed with my mom. I'm so glad she wasn't vindictive and brought the kids to see me every Friday. During my time in prison, I got clean for my kids and also got my GED and associate's degree. I read a lot of science books and fell in love with physics. So once I got out, my mom helped me out while I finished my bachelor's in mechanical engineering. I moved my mom and kids out of trailer park into a nice house in the suburbs once I had a decent job. My ex took the kids 1 weekend a month, even though her now husband still didn't like my kids. Fast forward to now. I bought my kids cars. My son took his when he visited his mother. The next day, my ex called me demanding I help with her kids. She explained that they're struggling and her husband's oldest daughter is now complaining about not having a car. I told her she's not my responsibility, and neither are her kids. She said that she'll cut my kids off if I don't give her what she wants. I explained that I don't care, and she'll be better out of our lives. Later, my kids told me about a text they got from their stepsister saying they're being horrible siblings. Their mom then sent them a text asking if they could sell the cars. And when they said no, she flipped out saying she's going no contact and that she didn't raise them to be greedy brats. My son sent laughing emojis, while my daughter sent race. She texted me some more jokes saying if they starve to death, it's my fault. My ex is a horrible person, but her kids didn't do anything. Should I give them some money? Now for the top comments. No. Heck no. Good on you for turning your life around. Your mom and kids must be so proud. Not the a-hole. Bold assumption from OP that any money would go to the kids. Not the a-hole. However much money you give your ex, it will never be enough. Let the trash take itself out. Stay away from her and her other kids. Exactly. The ex saw that OP had enough money to buy his kid a car. The first thing she thought was, he has enough money laying around to give to me. It never is enough money. My mother-in-law is like this, and luckily my wife realized it on her own after a couple years. My mother-in-law could be making $10 million a year, and she would still find a way to spend it all on stupid stuff. Always a victim, always struggling. Get a lawyer, get full custody, block her and everything. Her kids have a father. She needs to get up his butt about it. Not you, not the a-hole. Full custody and child support from deadbeat mommy. I don't know. The dude's making a healthy chunk of change as a mechanical engineer. If he doesn't need the money, I'd skip that part. The whole point is to cut the woman out of his life. Child support would require regular contact with her. Update. Am I the a-hole for snapping at my wife and calling her crazy because she wants me to take a paternity test for my nephew? Original post. My wife and I have been married for 10 years and have been together for 14. We don't have kids. I have a 13-year-old nephew who looks a lot like me. We share some similar facial features. I'm really proud of him, and we've always had a close bond. I've played a father-like role in his life since he was young, especially since his own father is absent, and my sister divorced him a long time ago. Some family members have commented on how much my nephew resembles me, and at first, I thought it was just a nice observation. But for some reason, these comments started making my wife insecure and doubtful. She was questioning why I needed to play such a prominent role in my nephew's life, why my nephew had autism, etc. Her insinuations became uncomfortable and strange. I admit that my sister's dry humor might have contributed to my wife's insecurities. During family gatherings, my sister would joke about how nice it is that her son looks like me, saying she couldn't be happier. It was clearly meant as a joke, but I asked my sister to tone it down because it's affecting my wife. Last night, things escalated when my wife asked if I would take a paternity test to put her mind at ease. That's when I snapped and called her crazy, saying that marrying her was the biggest mistake of my life. I regretted saying it immediately because it wasn't true. My wife is the love of my life. She went quiet and started crying, and I had to console her afterward. Was I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. She thinks you had a baby with your own sister? Not your brother's wife or anything, but your own sister. No, that is crazy. My oldest niece is a miniature version of me. Looks and attitude, lol. I have never once been accused of incest with my brother. OP, your wife is on some other level of insecure. You are not the a-hole at all. She needs therapy. It's genetics, and sometimes a niece or nephew can look just like that aunt or uncle. Like it's crazy to insinuate incest because he looks like his uncle. Does she not understand they are siblings and have similar genetics? Two full-blood siblings share about 50% of their DNA. That means the odds of OP sharing significant features with his nephew are 1 in 4, which not rare. Sorry, but someone accuses me of sleeping with my sibling, I'm gonna say some kind of something to them. It won't be pretty. She doesn't get to cry and acts like she did nothing wrong. Not the a-hole. And love of your life or not, your wife thinks you slept with your sister. How do you come back from that? An accusation of ordinary cheating is bad enough for a marriage and can definitely justify some not-so-nice words. Throw incest into the mix and yeah, OP's wife is definitely in the wrong here. She needs to pull her head out of her behind and apologize, then probably seek therapy. Now for the update. Hey everyone, just a quick update. I've agreed to take the paternity test, but there are some conditions attached. I realize my wife is being paranoid and irrational, but I'm willing to take the test to help ease her fears. Sometimes, fears don't follow any logic. I've had my own irrational worries before. I talked to my sister today, and she was understandably upset with my wife. But after discussing it at length, my sister agreed to the test, provided we set some conditions. Later, I spoke to my wife and told her I was willing to take the test, but there were a few terms. My wife was relieved that I agreed and explained the conditions to her. The first was that she needed to stop making any insinuations or accusations immediately. She agreed right away. The second condition was that there would be no more arguments about me spending time with my sister and nephew. Over the years, we've had disagreements about why I spend so much time at their house. My wife agreed to this condition, though she took a little time to consider it. The third and final condition was that I would be free to go on vacations with my sister and nephew without my wife coming along. I told her up front that my sister doesn't want her to join us on these trips anymore. My wife hesitated a bit on this one, but she eventually agreed. That's probably my final update. Thanks everyone for the advice. This will clearly resolve everything. I give her 1 month before she claims you lied about the results or it's a false negative. The thing is, the test is going to show they're genetically linked because he is the kid's uncle, and that alone might be enough for her to be convinced he is the father, even when the percentages don't line up. This isn't a mentally stable person he's dealing with. Therapy should have been one of his conditions. I had the same thought. They're biological siblings. The test will come back that he and his nephew are related, and I can imagine OP's wife twisting it to say she was right. Lol, dude, it's not gonna matter what the test says. Your wife has an irrational delusion in her head and will go through whatever mental gymnastics she needs to justify it. The test is not going to help. If anything, it's going to get worse, especially based on the conditions you set. I told my sister this, but if this doesn't work, I'm going to look into divorce. Next story. Am I the a-hole for taking my kids back home with me from my parents' house after they violated the one simple rule I gave them? In March 2022, my parents reached out to me because they wanted to meet my daughters, Angela and Julianne, both 9, IVF twins. I agreed on the condition that they would not introduce my kids to my aunt's family. Growing up with my aunt's family was a nightmare. They were incredibly abusive and neglectful when I lived with them. To give you an idea, back in 1997, my aunt took my brother's asthma inhaler and refused to give it back because he wouldn't share his cookies with her daughter. This was a woman in her mid to late 20s doing this to a 7-year-old. I had my lawyer draft a contract outlining my terms. It wasn't legally binding, just symbolic, but it clearly stated that I would fly with my daughters from Seattle to Albuquerque for spring and summer breaks, provided that my aunt's family wouldn't be introduced to them or come near the property under any circumstances. I reserved the right to never bring my kids back if the rule was violated. My mom signed it, and I planned a trip. Before leaving, I explained to my daughters who these people were and why I didn't like them. I told them to let me know if they met them. I treat my kids like they can understand things, and I always try to explain situations to them honestly. We made a flight down and arrived at my parents' home. But 2 hours later, the doorbell rang. Guess who it was? My aunt's family, standing around and laughing as if we've always gotten along. I turned to my mom and asked, "Why did you invite them?" Mom, well, they're family. Me, they're your family. Angela and Julianne were going home. Since the girls hadn't unpacked yet, they grabbed their things and I collected my belongings to leave. My mom broke down, begging me not to go, saying things like, "Really? You actually meant it? And I can't believe you." Meanwhile, my aunt's family started making judgmental comments, calling me ungrateful and trying to guilt-trip me. If you've ever dealt with abusive people, you know they always resort to the same victim-blaming tactics. After that, I blocked my parents and aunt's family on all platforms and instructed my kids to do the same. They've complied, but not before asking me for the latest new jeans merch, of course. 2 weeks ago, my brother came over and tried to reason with me. He spoke calmly, asking me to reconsider. I told him I gave them one rule, and they violated it within 2 hours of us being there. It's not just about the rule. It shows they don't respect me. They cared more about my aunt's family than they did about respecting my boundaries, which makes me question how much they really care about my kids if they were willing to break the agreement so quickly. It seems my mom has either forgiven or doesn't care enough about what we endured with those people to respect my boundaries. She seems to think I was bluffing, even though I made my rules clear. Your brother was the one she took the inhaler from, and he's going to bat for them? Jesus, he's in it deep too, huh? Not the a-hole. My brother is actually a very forgiving and loving person. He likes to see the good people and believes that people can change. I agree with him to an extent. Really, the only reason those people aren't messing with him is because he's older and has been overseas with the US military. Your brother is trauma bonded with your family. He is allowing himself to be used to manipulate you and he refuses to see it. He is not forgiving and loving. He is a doormat. I really hate to consider that possibility. I reserve the right to never bring kids back here if you violate this one rule. She signed it and I planned a trip. Really? You actually meant it? That is the weakest reaction ever. Who goes through the trouble of having someone sign an agreement just for the fun of it? Why did she think you went to all that effort? At least she showed her true colors so early in the visit. If she had waited until the end, it could have caused real confusion for your children. They would have had, hopefully, good memories with Grandma, and then struggled to understand why Grandma did something wrong at the end. Instead, she broke the rule almost as soon as you arrived. And your kids could see that you take rule breaking seriously. It's also a good thing that your aunt stayed true to her usual self, showing that she hasn't really changed, despite what your brother hoped. True change would have started with a sincere apology and a willingness to accept any terms given by the offended party. They just don't take me seriously. They think I'm still a kid in middle school who has childish complaints or something. Next story. Am I the a-hole for cutting off my parents after they pressured me to give up my autistic son for adoption? I, 32 female, am a single mom to my 7-year-old son who is on the autism spectrum. He is everything to me. I've been raising him mostly on my own since my divorce 3 years ago. My ex and I tried to make it work, but the stress of raising a special needs child took a toll, and he walked away. Now it's just me and my son. While it's not always easy, I wouldn't trade him for anything. But my parents don't see it the same way. Ever since my son's diagnosis, they've made comments implying that he is too much for me to handle. At first, it was more subtle, like you need a break or he must be exhausting. But recently, it's gotten worse. They've even suggested I should consider putting him up for adoption because they believe he is too much of a burden. The first time they said that, I was in shock and didn't know how to respond. I love my son with all my heart, and the idea that they see him as a problem that could be fixed through adoption made me sick. I tried to explain how hurtful their words were, but they wouldn't stop bringing it up. Every time we talked, they hinted that I was making things harder for myself by keeping him. They've said things like, "You're still young, you could have another chance at a normal life," as if my son isn't already my entire world. Things came to a head a couple of weeks ago when they actually sat me down and said they'd done research on homes for special needs kids, suggesting he could get better somewhere else. They've even said it would be better for everyone if I gave him up. I was absolutely furious. I told them they were cruel and heartless, and if they couldn't accept my son as part of our family, then they weren't part of our lives anymore. Since then, I've cut off all contact. My phone's been blowing up with messages from my parents and even other family members telling me I'm overreacting and that they were just trying to help. They're saying I'm being ungrateful and that I should think about how hard it is for them to see me struggling. Some relatives are even suggesting I should forgive them because they're my parents and only want what's best for me. But I can't get past what they said. My son isn't a burden, and he certainly isn't someone to give up just because life with him is more challenging. He's my child, my entire world. Now I'm questioning myself. Am I being too harsh? Should I give them another chance because they're family? Or am I justified in cutting them off after what they said? Am I the a-hole? You are not the a-hole. Your parents' suggestion to give up your son is unacceptable. Your child's well-being is your priority and your right to defend him. Appreciate your support. I will always stand behind him. Always. As I stated in my first reply, I raised an ASD son and my daughter has 3 sons who are on various levels of the spectrum. I wouldn't trade any one of them for so-called normal boys. If your parents will not accept and love your son, you have no choice but to go no contact. Another Reddit case of time to cut off all these people and move somewhere else. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my brother's fiancé to grow up and stop trying to put her anger and trauma on me? My brother Matt, 30 male, is engaged to Evelyn, 32 female. Matt is our parents' biological son, and I'm 25 female, their adopted daughter. We also have another biological sister and 2 more adopted brothers. Our parents fostered many kids and adopted some of us. I've always known I was adopted, as I was removed from an unsafe environment and didn't have any safe biological relatives. My biological family is small in terms of known members, and none of them are good people. I'm very grateful to have been adopted. I feel lucky to have found a family that embraced the fact that we weren't biologically connected but loved us just the same, without any shame. Each of us who were adopted has our own story. One of my brothers, for example, was orphaned, and his birth parents wanted him to find a family who would love and care for him, which he found with us. Matt's fiancée, Evelyn, was adopted as an infant and has a lot of complicated feelings about it. I understand why she feels this way, especially since her adoptive parents tried to erase her biological background, shamed her for being curious about it, and spoke negatively about her birth family. I don't think that was fair or right. However, Evelyn tends to push her feelings onto other adoptees, assuming we all feel the same as she does. She has made negative comments about my parents, accusing them of robbing 3 children of their rights to their biological family history and identity. She even suggested that I was brainwashed by CPS into believing that I was removed for safety reasons and had no safe biological relatives. For the record, all my known birth relatives have been in and out of prison, and I have verified this. She told me that I'm just traumatized and too afraid to admit that I was denied my real family. I explained to her that I don't feel that way, but she insisted that all adopted kids feel the same, claiming that adoptees are treated as products in the US. I told Matt that I couldn't handle this anymore, and that I would need to see him and Evelyn less if they didn't stop. Despite this, she keeps seeking me out. On Saturday, while she was at my parents' home, she tried to bring it up again. I couldn't stand her talking about my parents that way in their own home, so I snapped. I told her to grow up and accept that people can have different experiences and perspectives, and that only children think everyone should feel the same. I also said that she needed to stop projecting her anger and trauma onto me, just because our experiences are different. Evelyn said I was being spiteful and throwing it in her face. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. What does your brother do while she sits in your parents' home and talks smack about them? Do your parents know? He doesn't say anything in front of us. Our parents know. I didn't know it, but they were aware before too. They feel bad that her experience left her feeling as she does. Your parents are so good. You are not the a-hole. She should really seek therapy. I agree. I think that's why she's so explosive about the topic. She needs to talk about it because her feelings are so complicated and make her miserable with her anger and grief. Not the a-hole. In advocacy spaces, there's a few golden rules. Things like, don't talk about us without us, as in don't represent us without letting us talk too. And a big one is, experiences may vary and I cannot talk for you because I haven't walked in your shoes, as in what you've experienced I cannot imagine, because I haven't lived your life. Evelyn is failing on both of those. Probably more. Has she got an adoption fetish? Is that why she's with your brother? How does he feel about all this nonsense? Not her, but the crap she's talking. And how will he reconcile this with having children with her? I think she has become so bitter about the flaws in the adoption system and the bad outcome she got that she can't accept there are people who have benefited from it too. I don't believe adoption is part of the reason she's with him because she found out about some of us being adopted months into their relationship. Update. Am I the a-hole for bringing up just how much I actually do for our household to my wife? Original post. Can't believe I actually have a reason to post something on Reddit, but here I am. My wife, 41 female, and I, 42 male, have been married for 15 years. I apparently surprised her by being capable of doing household chores and tasks, which I didn't think much of. My mom always asked me to help out with chores when I was a kid, so I didn't think it was beneath me or anything. I do think I inherited her need to clean excessively, like it's so bad that I can't eat until a mess is dealt with. My mom is an amazing cook. My aunt was a literal chef at a fancy hotel, and my dad loved having barbecues. It was pretty natural to learn from them and pick up a thing or two. The only thing I didn't pick up was how to make a decent cup of tea or coffee. I'm genuinely awful at it. It got to a point where I was handling most of the household chores and taking care of cooking, which I prefer anyway since she comes home exhausted. I've been asking our children, 11 female and 9 male, to do some minor tasks around the house and hopefully teach them this sort of thing too. She has a group of friends who hang out regularly. This time, it was her turn to host a group at her home. I offered to take our children out for the day and it was all set. Before we left, I had to finish up some things for work. The office space is practically on top of our living room, so I could hear what they were talking about the entire time. One of the friends asked how she always kept our house so spotless, and my wife just bragged about how she was responsible for it all. Then they all started talking about their gripes with their marriages. A common theme was how unhelpful their spouses were. I felt pretty uncomfortable, so I just left the office and went out with the kids. I came back after they had left for the night and acted as normal until we got to our bedroom. I asked her what was up with that conversation they had and pointed out that I did the cooking and cleaning in our marriage. She told me not to take it personally and that she just wanted to fit in with the struggles of her friends. Now I just feel unappreciated, especially since I don't clearly remember any genuine gratitude for what I do from her. Since then, she's been pretty short with me. She says I'm weaponizing what I'm doing against her and holding it over her head. I don't expect her to compliment me each time I clean or defend me religiously. Just a little, my husband is pretty helpful actually, he does his share, would be nice. I can't help but feel like her friends think I'm some sort of deadbeat who comes home to relax and neglect her. Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Not the a-hole. You're not weaponizing what you're doing against her. You're just insisting that she doesn't lie about you and badmouth you to her friends, which is exactly what she is doing. She knows that she is in the wrong here, hence her hostile response. She doesn't have a reasonable defense for her behavior. Personally, I wouldn't let this go. Her friends are people you will have to socialize with from time to time, and therefore what they think about you does matter. Love it. His wife is accusing him of weaponizing his competence. That's a fresh take on here. It is even more messed up that she is bad-mouthing her own husband to fit in with her friends, when in truth, she knows her husband goes above and beyond for her and her family. I would not have reacted as well as you. You're a better man than me, not the a-hole. I didn't want to ruin her day or make things awkward with her friends, so I only asked her about what happened the night in our bedroom. Like I said, you're a better man than me. I'd have dropped a bomb and bounced. You did the right thing, I think. Are you a stay-at-home father? We both work. She makes about $100K a year while I make around $70K. She earns more, but she's definitely not the only income in our household. What makes my job great is that my boss lets me have a lot of flexibility, so I can work from home and take care of the house and kids as long as I give him a heads up. Sounds like she needs a sample of being in charge of everything for a few weeks. I don't think she could do it, purely because of her job. I've got a lot of flexibility and leeway with my boss that allows me to do whatever I need to do at home or handle our children. She doesn't have that benefit and genuinely comes home about 6 to 7 p.m. exhausted. Now for the first update. I'm pretty shocked this post went as viral as it did, and I tried my best to talk to my wife yesterday. I just can't believe this is the woman I married. I tried speaking with her, explaining that while what she did wasn't the worst thing, it still wasn't a nice thing to do. She didn't appreciate me bringing it up again and told me to suck it up and stop complaining about one mistake. She apologized, but it sounded like she just was tired of dealing with the issue. I could see her getting heated and on the verge of starting an argument, so I backed off and changed the subject. I asked if we could adjust our responsibilities at home to be more balanced since most of the household management falls to me. Almost everything, about 90%, like cooking, cleaning, and even planning our date nights and family vacations, relies on me. I do think it's an issue she gets to come home and simply say she's tired. She then got in my face, saying I had no right to lecture her about chores since I'm home most of the time. She refused to listen and insisted that our current arrangement works best for our situation. She threw it in my face that she's the primary earner and said that balances everything out. Even this morning, she was visibly annoyed, coming downstairs in a bad mood. I'm pretty sure our kids noticed it too, but I drove them to school after they got ready. When I got back, I saw that my wife had left her packed lunch on the kitchen counter. So now I'm sitting here feeling like the woman I've known for 15 years hates me. She's been ignoring my texts and attempts to call her. I guess I'll have to address this issue properly even if it makes her angry. I can't just let her act like this, especially in front of our children. She's not entitled to be acting the way she's acting, given how you realistically do all the housework. She's an adult woman throwing a fit like a child because she was called out and lying to her friends about the amount of effort she puts in around the house. Maybe if she's offended by you calling her out, she should step up and help out more instead of whining at you for being right. I read this with a gender switched and yikes. It kind of does sound worse. Wife is a major a-hole. Any disrespectful one to speak that way about her husband like that and continue to double down. My mother-in-law did this, and when called out more, she doubled down then cried that she doesn't have a family because no one backed her up. Some people are too far up their own behind to smell anything but crap. Is she cheating? We haven't had any reason to doubt each other in our relationship, so no. I don't think she even has the energy to bother trying. Second update. I think I'm just done at this point. For the first time, I did something I've never done before. I went through her phone while she was sleeping. We both know each other's passwords, so it wasn't difficult. Some of the comments about possible cheating got to me and I felt paranoid about the situation. Instead, I found a group chat with some of her work friends, different from the friends she had over recently. It was filled with non-stop mockery of me and the things I do for her. She told them how embarrassed she feels to be with me, saying I dote on her like a parent and don't feel like her husband. The lunches I pack for her are humiliating because I add sweets and treats I know she likes. Some of her coworkers teased her about the snacks I pack, and she admitted to just throwing them out at work. She has no issue eating them at home, but at work, she throws out my baking. She also had some pretty hurtful things to say about me in the chat, things I don't even have the courage to type out here. One of the pictures she shared was edited to make it look like I was scrubbing a bathroom tile in a 1960s housewife dress, as if to mock me for doing chores. I just closed her phone and left the bedroom. In the morning, I confronted her about the chat and its contents, which made her panic. I focused on our kids, taking care of their needs, and left her to herself. It's not like she'd have appreciated a kid's lunch anyway. Now she's been texting me nonstop at the office, but I think I've lost all respect for her and what she's become. Not only does she find me overbearing and embarrassing as a husband, but she mocks me to her friends and shares sensitive details about our relationship with them. This will probably be the last update, as I don't think she can come back from this. We just celebrated our 15th anniversary last month, and now after seeing what my wife truly thinks of me, I feel like a fool. I hope she ends up with some slob who sits on his butt drinking beer while she does all the cooking and cleaning, since that's apparently her idea of what a husband should be like. Divorce her and push for full custody of your children for their sake. She neither wants to do chores or have a partner who does chores for her. There's no way she can keep a household fit for kids like that. Preach. She needs to spend a few days on Reddit reading every story about every deadbeat husband. She had no idea what she had. I bet she LARPs as the wife of a deadbeat online since she claimed to do all the housework to her coworkers. She just wants to be told that she's an incredible wife to an undeserving husband. Sorry it came to this. Good luck moving forward, OP. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to include my grandparents in my life after years of them treating me and my siblings like we were bastards? So I'm a 16-year-old girl and my parents, 48 male and 50 female, had an affair that resulted in my birth. My dad's family was outraged and cut him off after he divorced his first wife. They never acknowledged me or my siblings, 14 female, 11 female twins, and 9 female, as their grandkids. When I was younger, it hurt seeing my dad's other kids getting outings and a lot of presents at Christmas. But once I hit my early teens, I just kind of stopped caring. Adding to that, I hated how they treated my mom, so I really didn't want much to do with them. My dad has never forced us to spend time with them, thankfully, It's not like they cared much about us anyway. Once my dad's other kids were old enough, they left to live with their mom and stopped visiting much. I was actually glad to have all that negativity gone, honestly. Around the time I turned 12, it seemed like they had a change of heart and started trying to get close to us. But it didn't work, not even with my sister Anna, who is the sweetest girl ever. I guess calling kids bastards and treating them like unwanted things kind of makes them not want you around. Crazy, right? Anyway, I'm in my school's science club, and we recently had a big event. My club and I got a table and did a presentation of all the things we made. I was super excited. About a week after the event, I was talking about it while my dad's dad was there. He turned to me and asked why I didn't invite him. I told him I only wanted my family there. He said he is family, and I replied, "Are you though?" Because I thought I was just some bastard kid you didn't claim until only 4 years ago. He got mad, but my dad stepped in. Now I'm getting messages from his other grandkids calling me an a-hole, but I don't think I am. Am I? The saying you reap what you sow seems to fit here. Grandparents didn't care about you until the older ones don't have time for them. You don't owe them a relationship now that they're lonely. I often tell people who do something really crappy to others that there will be a price to pay. Your situation with your grandparents is just such a situation. Treating kids like that, blaming them for something the adults did, is unforgivable in my opinion. I agree with your decision to not include your grandparents in your life and would do the same thing. Sometimes people need to learn that just because you've had a change of heart doesn't mean the people you've hurt had one too. And learn they can't just skate back into someone's life after years of treating them like dog excrement. I'm not gonna tell you this should be your stance forever. It's up to you, of course. But if this were me, I would require a lot more effort on their part than just suddenly acting like you've always been family. Good luck whatever you decide. The real a-holes here are the parents. They are twice the a-holes, one for the affair and twice for allowing grandparents to have access to the children. Last story. Am I the a-hole for laughing at my ex's mother and telling her how much child support I've been receiving? My ex and I parted ways back in 2023, and ever since, communication with him and his family has been rocky. He wasn't interested in providing for our child, 6, so I had to apply for child maintenance. He currently owes around £1,300 in child support, but has only paid about £120 in total. I've never been on good terms with his parents. Among other things, they asked me not to apply for child maintenance, saying their son couldn't afford it. So you could say we're not exactly friends. Here's where the problem started. They recently found out about several concerts I'm planning to attend. While I did post about it on social media, they don't have access to my accounts, so I'm not sure how they found out. During a recent child drop-off, my ex's mother got very upset over my concert plans and started lecturing me about wasting the child support on myself, and so on. I couldn't hold it in and started laughing, which only made her angrier. Once she finished ranting and I stopped giggling, I told her that her son's child support wouldn't even cover the travel cost of my trip, and that she could rest assured I don't live off of it. I explained that it wouldn't even be enough to raise my child, let alone support us both. I probably should have left it at that, but I added that so far, we've received about £10 a month. I said that without doing the exact math. Truthfully, it's about £11. I added that it doesn't even cover the cost of the fruit my child eats, so neither of them has any say in how I spend my own money. For context, I work full-time and support my child and myself with my own earnings. She called me a liar and stormed off. Now their whole family is upset with me, saying I was rude and demanding I apologize. They also said I was an a-hole for mentioning the exact amount of child support, since it puts my ex in a bad light. My friends are divided. Some found the situation hilarious, while others think it was fair to stand up for myself, but say I shouldn't have told the exact amount. In my defense, I had no idea it was such a sensitive topic. I genuinely thought she didn't care about the amount and was just upset that I was getting any money at all. Also, for what it's worth, my child didn't witness this interaction. She was already inside, and I'm sure it would have gone differently if she had been present. So, am I the a-hole for laughing and telling her how much child support I've been receiving? Nope. I told everyone about the 10 pounds per month my kids were expected to live off of to anyone who told me I was living off of my ex's hard-earned dosh. If he's a deadbeat, make sure everyone knows about it, because I'm not going to work my butt off to maintain my children in a good lifestyle whilst he takes the credit. My ex was similarly upset because I set the record straight. Apparently, I caused his manliness hurt he feels, or something I couldn't give a crap about. OP not the a-hole. Yes, when I was attacked for stealing his tax return, I pointed out that only happens when there are arrears. Oh, so he's paid up now? Yes, for 2018. I've already paid for what the kids need. When his tax return comes, I buy some extras. I was accused of stealing our tax refund. Ex thought he was being smart, changing his address to his mother's. About a week after he did that, I got the refund at our house because it was addressed to both of us. He also thought he was being so smart when he closed the checking account. He forgot about the joint savings account. I deposited a check in there and gave him a check for half. He blew up because he thought he deserved 60% since he made more money, but we both signed the form and were both liable for any taxes due. Fair is fair. He told his family I went to his mother's house and took the check from the counter, saying I left my red hot lipstick on a glass. When I heard that, I laughed so hard I about peed myself. If he had gotten that check, I would never have seen any of it. Update. Am I the a-hole for buying my daughter a locked storage bin? Original post. I, 53 male, have a daughter 17 female who I recently bought this big storage container for that has a lock. The reason being, our daughter has a job and likes buying her own food and snacks for herself. The problem is that her mom invites her aunt, uncle, and cousins over all the time, and ever since she started buying her snacks and leaving them in the pantry, they'd eat them without consulting her. She's asked them many times to not eat them, but they don't listen. For reference, she likes to order snacks from other countries as a way to broaden her horizons. She's also linguistically gifted and liked to try and read labels to help expand her vocabulary. These snacks can take weeks to get after she orders them again, and by then, her current snacks are gone. My wife didn't do anything, saying that since our daughter kept them in the pantry there for everyone, she then moved them to her room, and her cousins would go in when she wasn't and take them. So, I went to a hardware store and bought a big container with a lock, and for extra measure, I bought extra locks and drilled holes so that they could be used. Our daughter cried and thanked me because it was pretty expensive and not something she could afford. Of course, the cousins went to get more snacks and threw a fit when they saw it and realized the snacks were in there. They told their parents and they told my wife, and she's not happy with me, saying that our daughter should share her snacks with family and she's being selfish and will get fat. Our daughter is incredibly fit, does multiple sports and exercises all the time. She's far from unhealthy. I told my wife she could order her own, and our daughter was happy to tell her where to order them. But she didn't like that either, and told her that the chest needs to go, and that I should have consulted her in buying the bin in the first place. Am I the a-hole? Edit. The relatives are our daughter's cousins and aunt and uncle. They are my sister-in-law, brother-in-law, and nephews, and my sister-in-law is my wife's sister to clear up any confusion. The pantry is also fully stocked with food. No one is going hungry and just eating our daughter's snacks because they have to. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Your wife is well out of line. How dare she take your daughter's things? Your daughter works for these treats. Your wife has no right to steal them, and has no right to advocate her other family members steal them. Also, the fat remark. Just, you did the right thing. You are not the a-hole. It cannot be emphasized enough how important it is that Opie's daughter has a parent like him in her corner, especially since his wife clearly isn't. Yeah, hijacking comment for Opie to see this. Maybe also get a lock for your daughter's room? Why are they allowing themselves in when she is not there? That's not okay. Not the a-hole, but I would take it a step further and get a deadbolt lock for her room to lock it when she isn't there. That way, the cousins can't get into her room, and we'll have something else to complain about. I'll consider that. Thank you for the suggestion. They've always had a nasty habit of going in her room and snooping. It would be a good move. It would give everyone involved a message that your daughter has a right to privacy and to have her boundaries respected. Why does your wife think it's okay to openly steal from her? Sounds abusive. I have also tried telling them all that they should respect our daughter's privacy and that she works hard to buy herself snacks. My wife is of the belief that since our daughter is under her roof, she needs to share anything she buys with the family. Yeah, that's super crappy to disallow your daughter from having boundaries or personal possessions. It tells your daughter that others have a right to what is hers, which can lead to self-esteem issues, and people taking advantage of her even after she moves out. This behavior from your wife needs to be stopped yesterday. This is a hill to die on. I agree, and we'll have a conversation with her about this. It's become a big issue. And now for the update. My daughter and my brother-in-law both found my post separately. First, my daughter, who was sent it via a friend who knew the situation. She confronted me about it, and we had a very long talk where she admitted that when I'm away, her mom doesn't treat her well, and often puts her cousins/my nephews above her, telling her she should be understanding because we're far better off than them. I was aware that they would occasionally sneak into her room to take things or play, but apparently they go as far as to wait for her to leave for a few minutes, run in and grab what they want. Her mom also makes a lot of comments about her weight. For reference, our daughter takes after me, being taller with some more masculine features such as broader shoulders, while my wife is small and petite. There are many other things I won't say here that my wife has said to our daughter. I didn't bring it up at first, and consulted my wife in buying a lock for our daughter's door, which she opposed, even if our daughter said she'd buy it with her own money. She started yelling about how under her roof our daughter has to abide by her rules. The house is technically mine, not hers. She stormed off and immediately began telling all our friends and her sister and brother-in-law that I was being controlling and awful to her. The brother-in-law then found the first post and sent it to her, leading to another argument where she accused me of airing our dirty laundry to the world, instead of trying to communicate despite me trying to and getting shut down. Once she stormed off, I packed a bag as did my daughter, and we went to a hotel. Yes, we brought the snack bin, where we have been the past few days while I find a good divorce lawyer. My wife is still spreading lies about me, claiming I try to kick her out, and all sorts of other lies. I'm finished with her. I don't care what she says. I'll be divorcing her and paying as much alimony as she wants, so that I can keep my daughter safe from her. I don't care about a house or anything else. She can keep it all, and let her sister, brother-in-law, and nephew smooch off her until she's penniless. I'm sorry, this is not a happy update, and I doubt I will make one after this. Thank you for opening my eyes, Reddit. You're a stellar parent. Good luck. Definitely. When I read the original post, I thought they already were divorced. Don't know why I read it that way. I too am sorry to see the marriage end, but it sounds like it's for the best. Your house? Fight for it. Your daughter is safe while she's with you. But if that is legally your house, then you need to reclaim it and kick the lot of them out. Don't give it up so easily. My thinking too. Great dad and all. But the way I understand it, if you leave the house, you're signaling you don't want it legally. It's your house. With your daughter to testify with how her own mother treats her, no judge is going to award her the house. Get the divorce attorney and document everything your wife is saying. Also, you may be able to use your post to back up your claims of how unhinged your wife is. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my brother that I think he made a wrong choice regarding what happened to his daughter and current wife? This happened 6 months ago, but it still have a big impact on my brother. 7 months ago, my niece, 19 female, was involved in a big car accident. Several surgeries were performed and she was in a critical condition for a couple of days. It was really scary, and she was admitted to the hospital Monday morning. She was my brother's daughter from his ex-wife. At the same time, his current wife was at the end of her pregnancy. She was in labor and entered the hospital Thursday morning of the same week. She really wanted my brother to be by her side through the whole thing, and it took around 16 hours. My niece woke up for the first time Thursday at noon. There were her mom, my girlfriend, and I. She asked for my brother, but he wasn't there. Then she woke up again in the evening, but he still wasn't there. So the first time I saw her was Friday morning. Everything seemed fine and we were all happy. However, after she was discharged from the hospital to her mom's house, she completely removed my brother from her life. She doesn't answer his calls or even talk to him when he visits. Last week, he came to me losing his mind. He told me that his niece told him, "Why do you even care? I woke up from my deathbed and I didn't find you. Nothing should have been more important than staying by your daughter's side when she was almost dying." At the same time, his relationship with his current wife is also strained due to this, so he asked me to give my honest opinion about what he did. I told him that I think he made a wrong decision, and his daughter should have been a priority. But to be fair, he had a very bad luck that the only hours he was there is when she woke up. He got angry and left. Am I the a-hole? Should I have told him that I agree with him so he doesn't feel more guilt? Now for the top comments. This was a lose-lose situation. He made a gamble and lost. As a parent, your child needs you. As a spouse, your spouse needs you. How do you choose? He was there but not when she could see him. At the same time, based on her reaction, there's some other stuff going on in the background that's not being said here. I can't give an opinion without knowing more backstory between them. If the wife and niece would both be equally distraught by his absence, then the brother's decision was a prudent choice. If he was with a daughter, then he was guaranteed to miss his wife giving birth. Whereas if he was with his wife, there was only a chance that his daughter would wake up while he was gone. There also is a decent chance that he wouldn't be there when his daughter woke up regardless, unless he was sleeping in her hospital room, which is a possibility but not forever. Not the a-hole. I understand wanting to be there to support your wife and wanting to see your baby being born, but that child will never remember his being there. But your niece will never forget him not being there when she awoke after nearly dying. I'm really shocked by the wife. I can't imagine keeping someone from their child's side when they were on the brink, and to force him to stay through the entire labor? Yeah, I can't blame your niece for needing space. I don't know how you come back from this. If your brother didn't want to hear your honest opinion, he shouldn't have asked you for it. I mean, birth can become a life or death situation at a moment's notice, whether for the mom or the baby. If it was her first baby, and especially if there were any complications / it was a high-risk pregnancy, I can kind of understand wanting him there and him feeling obligated to be there. What if she needed him to advocate for her? What if something went wrong? Birthing a baby can be a really scary experience depending on the circumstances. It's not just about seeing your child be born. I just feel like he was in a no-win situation. Can become. There's no question that childbirth can become a life or death situation. But his other daughter was in an actual life or death situation. Or at least that's how she perceives it. And that's how it reads. Not an easy dilemma for sure. But what's a husband going to do in a medical situation? I mean, really, what will he offer aside from comfort? This way, he chose to comfort his girlfriend / wife, who only had a potential to need it, over his daughter who certainly needed it. No a-holes here. How's that woman? I had an easy pregnancy and the birth went great. Until it didn't. My first child had been a C-section, the second normal delivery. And second was coming out. He got caught in some scar tissue causing me to hemorrhage. I did die on the table. And my husband had to make traumatic decisions in the spur of the moment. It was terrifying. Luckily, I survived. Without him there to make decisions, when seconds counted, I could have stayed dead. And my 2-year-old and newborn children would have been without a mother. His other daughter was in a coma. He had no idea she was going to wake up. In my situation, if he had been with his daughter instead of me, I would have not recovered. He was in a tough position. However, there was nothing he could actually do for his comatose daughter except watch her. He could help his wife. No a-holes here. I get why the daughter feels the way she does, but I don't think she's being fair. Dad was in an untenable situation and made the best decision he could at a time. Hopefully with time, daughter will realize that. I was wondering about this being possibly not an a-hole or no a-holes here until you said this. He had very bad luck that the only hours he was there she woke up. So he was there, just not when she was awake. The guy has a new kid being born and is juggling that with a kid unconscious with no telling when she would be waking up. And you come up with this answer? Yeah, you're the a-hole. Last story. Am I the a-hole for calling my sister cruel for her tattoo idea? Sister is 28, I'm 26 male. My sister Nora has always had a strained relationship with our parents, especially my mom. I am clearly not privy to the reasons because things are fine with me and my parents. When Nora went to college, she met her creative writing professor as a freshman and they got close immediately. They would do a lot together and worked closely on a few different writing projects. Nora never specifically said this, but it was obvious to anyone who saw them interact that they had a substitute mother/daughter type relationship, which hurts my mom a lot to see. I always thought she'd grow out of it or that the professor would move on, but 10 years later they were still very close. About a month ago, the professor died unexpectedly and it devastated Nora. She was really depressed over the holidays, which of course was all in front of my mom. It was a difficult reminder that Nora loved the professor as a mother way more than she ever loved my mom as a mother. She still talks to my parents and stuff, and they don't fight or anything, but Nora's very distant and doesn't tell them anything about her life beyond the bare minimum. My mom tried to comfort Nora, but Nora was doing her distant thing and didn't want comfort. Something unfortunate that happened to Nora is that when she got the call that she died, she was brewing tea, and in the shock of the news, she spilled boiling water on her arm, which burned her kind of badly on her wrist. I think the burn was like on the borderline of second and third degree, and definitely still looked pretty rough during the holidays. Nora said it was especially hard because in addition to the physical pain, every time she looks at it, she is reminded of the moment she found out the prof died, which I totally get. I was on FaceTime with Nora, and she said she talked to her tattoo artist friend who said that the burn should be able to heal well enough to get a tattoo over it. Nora then excitedly told me about her idea, which is a type of flower that a prof gave her a bouquet of for her undergrad graduation. My mom was so embarrassed that day because she didn't get Nora flowers, but the prof did, and Nora was parading them around so happy, and it was a reminder of their connection. I guess Nora and the prof exchanged these flowers for every special occasions like birthdays, etc. So now she wants to get a decent-sized tattoo in a highly visible spot of something that will remind everyone of the prof. I told Nora that this seemed really cruel to my mom, who already feels cast aside, and like she's in exile from Nora. And that's without a constant permanent reminder. Nora kind of scoffed and said, "I can't believe you think you have the right to tell me not to do this," called me an a-hole and hung up. And is still not talking to me except for a very brief text saying congrats for a promotion I just got. My parents aren't commenting. My dad said I should have just kept quiet even though he agrees, and my mom made no comment, but seemed grateful I stood up for her. I feel like I was just being protective of my mom. But am I the a-hole? What you have described is the golden child and the scapegoat child, you being the golden child. Nora didn't get what she needed from her own mother, and was incredibly fortunate that another stepped in and took on that role. Take your blinders off and see. Ask your sister if she felt second best growing up, and be open and silent when and to what she tells you. Yes, you're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. Agree. Not much else to say other than it's okay for people to have meaningful connections to humans in life who aren't their parents, and honor them in that connection however they want. It's not her problem to deal with her mother's pain or feeling left out. You're the a-hole. Mind your business. Your mom being embarrassed because she forgot to buy her daughter flowers is her own damn problem. We can all tell you were mommy's golden child from this post. Your poor sister. I don't even think mom forgot anything, to be honest. She didn't bother getting her daughter anything, and then got mad that someone else did notice and value daughter's hard work. Info, my mom was so embarrassed that day because she didn't get Nora flowers. Why the heck are you so concerned about protecting this woman's feelings? Update, am I the a-hole for refusing to take care of my wife since she caught the flu from having sex with her affair partner? Original post. This is partially a rant and partially an actual question. I, 54 male, have been married to my wife, Victoria, 54 female, for over 32 years. We have 3 adult daughters and 1 adult son. Early this year, she started menopause. I loved her and supported her throughout this difficult time. She said she didn't want to have sex because she felt like she's fat and ugly. I told her she's beautiful, and I was patient with her as she said she didn't want to be intimate. It was only since this month that she wanted us to be intimate again. I thought things were getting better, until I saw a condom wrapper in our bedroom. My job involves going out of town for business trips. This last trip, I tried to get into my wife's social media, and luckily enough, she used someone's birthday as the password. I found out her affair partner is Zachary, 35 male, a family friend who has a wife, 29 female. So on my trip, I read so many messages. One message involved Zachary asking if it's okay to come over for their fun time since he thinks he's coming down with something. Even after getting back in town, I read some messages. Zachary messaged that he and his wife have the flu, so he can't see my wife for a while. My wife said that herself getting the flu was worth it. I came home to my wife who's suffering from the flu. I immediately told her that I know about her and Zachary. She was upset, but too weak from the flu to stop me from packing and leaving. She begged me not to leave her alone while she's sick. After I left, my wife has been messaging me. She said she's very sick. I told her to go to the doctor, call ambulance, or call someone else. She said she's not dying, but she needs me. She said she can't call our kids nor any other family member since they'll ask why I'm not there. She said that menopause had made her crazy and that she wouldn't see Zachary anymore. I still haven't gone back. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Menopause did not make her cheat. Mail order a carton of NyQuil to her if you're feeling a little compassionate. I'll never know what menopause feels like. I've known other women who've gone through it. To my knowledge, those women have managed to avoid sleeping with married man who's a family friend. Not the a-hole. Leave her and don't look back. Her being sick makes it harder to leave her. But I can't be around her. Single woman here. I take care of myself when I'm sick. She can too. She chose that outcome. Now she has to lie sick in it. All kinds of ick sleeping with a married man-child close to the family. She literally chose to have sex with a man who warned her that he was coming down with something. Afterwards, she messaged him that their fun was worth getting the flu. I have to remember that in case I feel sorry for her. Call the wife and tell her. Call all your kids and tell them before she lies and do the kids right away. See a lawyer right away. I would hate to tell my kids, but I may have to if their mom will lie to them. She will, or say it's because your day was verbally abusive. You need to go on the offensive. If you play the good guy, it will come back to kick you in the teeth. Call them now. Show them the texts about the flu, etc. I told my kids just now. I also told Zach's wife. Now for the mini updates. As soon as I found the messages, I was planning on telling Zach's wife. I wanted to tell her face to face. I wanted to spare our adult kids the horrible news. But many in the comments made a good point that my wife could lie to our kids. So I called Zach's wife first. I don't know what's going on in their marriage because she believed me right away. I called my kids and talked to them like a conference call. I had to unfortunately send some proof to them. I didn't go overboard, just enough for them to believe me. Obviously, they're all upset. I tried to keep it together as I don't want to vent about their mother to them. Mini update 2. Zach's wife has been messaging me last night and this morning. She was planning on leaving Zachary anyway because Zachary was sleeping with 2 other women. But the fact that Victoria is a married woman who is like a family member speeds things up. Zach's wife made Zachary leave the house. Also, all my kids have called their mother. They're not buying any of their mom's excuses. They all want me to divorce her. Update 3. The answer was obvious, but I needed other people to tell me, so I didn't stupidly go back to my wife. Thank you for those who commented on the first post. I had made 2 edits on the first post, explaining some stuff that happened after I posted. To just briefly touch on those edits, Zach's wife and my adult kids know that my wife Victoria had an affair with Zachary. Zach's wife kicked him out of their house. All kids are on my side and they want us to divorce. I talked to a friend who's a major divorce attorney for the 3rd time. I've given her a lot of evidence so she can decide what she can use. She did say that I should be careful with what I say online, especially not to use Victoria's and Zachary's real names. Our kids, especially our eldest daughter, are pressuring their mom to make this a quick and easy divorce. A lot of people who commented said I was being too nice to my cheating wife. I'll show some pettiness by letting everyone here mock all the excuses and minimizations she made for cheating. Menopause made her crazy. She felt fat and ugly. She felt like she didn't deserve me. Zachary came on to her first. She wanted to make sure a man can be attracted to her without him being obligated to because she's the mother of his children. She had sex with Zachary to make sure she can still have sex. She says Zachary didn't mean anything to her. I'm overreacting because Zachary is a family friend and not a family member. Zach's wife isn't like a daughter to us. She didn't betray a woman that's like a daughter to us. Other husbands have forgiven their wives when the wives cheat. If I had sex with a younger woman during a midlife crisis, she would have forgiven me. We have 4 kids. We've been together for so long. I promised to love her in sickness and in health. She felt like she didn't deserve me. I mean, she ain't wrong. Some people will go to great lengths just to always be right. Her excuses are disgusting. Good for you for seeing through her BS. Menopause doesn't make you cheat. If she felt fat and ugly, then that's something to work out in therapy or with you. I think she almost ran a full list of made-up excuses, except for the mind-controlling aliens excuse. It's interesting how she's refusing to acknowledge any harm she did to the other wife. Zach's wife is someone Victoria and I watched grow up. She was like a niece. Our eldest daughter was the maid of honor at their wedding. The fact that she feels no remorse for the pain she inflicted on another woman is telling. It's all me, 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 me. I felt sad, I felt ugly, I felt old, me, me, me. What about the other woman? True, Victoria is so self-centered. Menopause makes just about every woman gain weight, especially in the stomach. I went through about 13 years ago. Never cheated on my husband. My eldest daughter didn't appreciate it when my wife said that when she goes through menopause, she'll understand. Next story. Am I the a-hole for allowing my husband's mistress to meal prep for him and the kids? My husband has been cheating on me for years with different women. Due to this, I've completely shut off from him. We don't have a sexual relationship, but we do an amazing job at being parents. Our kids love us, and that's all that matters in the grand scheme of things. I am not dating anyone. This isn't an open relationship. Every time he cheats, he acts more remorseful, but I've come to terms that I can't save him. He's seeing this woman Cherry, and she's a cook and baker. We were in a little tussle once, but that's in the past. I've moved on. I don't like her, but I don't hate her. Few weeks back, I caught him eating in his car and realized it was from her. The packaging gave him away. She has been sending him goodie bags and now full meals. I told him going forward, I'm no longer cooking for him and he needs to let her do everything including meals for the kids. I really put my foot down and did some petty things that I'm not proud of, but it worked. I told him if she loves him, he will do it, but I'm done. Well, I don't know what he did to convince her, but at least 3 times a week they get meals from Cherry. He brings the container and plates the food. The kids are happy because they think they're getting takeout. I don't partake. On the other days, I cook for just the kids and myself. My husband, on the other hand, got mad and said I manipulated him into taking advantage of Cherry and kept asking me what do I get out of these mind games. I told my best friend about the whole ordeal, and she's upset with me saying that what if Cherry spikes the kids' meals? I don't think she would do it. Am I the a-hole for letting this happen? Now for the comments. Mistress wanted to be a sister wife. She got assigned sister wife duties. LMAO. I don't really know how I feel about trusting a mistress on feeding my kids though. She's a professional mistress. She'll move on from him soon. Why are you staying with him? For Pete's sake, just get divorced. This is sick and a terrible environment in which to raise kids. I'm not giving up my house and leaving with half. I hope I get under his skin and he gives up everything. These comments are boosting me to leave, but it's not black and white. We have built a good amount together. Financially, it's a stupid idea. It's cool to say leave until you're homeless with no help. Not everyone has a village. I do provide, but I'm not leaving my home. How long would my salary last to stay in a hotel or motel? Get an apartment? We live in a small town, as I've said many comments ago. I would have to move 30 minutes away to live in an apartment complex. My husband would not leave our home either. I can't up and leave and stay at a friend's home. In all likelihood, you wouldn't have to. Negotiate that in a divorce. Find out if you live in an at-fault state. You have proof of his repeated infidelity. Honestly, talk to a lawyer. Find out what your options are. Nobody deserves to live like this. And you're going to seriously ruin your kids if the shenanigans continue. Kids aren't stupid. This is the strangest thing I've read on here in ages. I know a couple in a similar situation. They struggled with infertility for years, both had issues, and eventually decided to adopt. After adopting a few children, including some who were not babies, she caught him sleeping with her best friend. Despite this, she didn't want to divorce because she felt it would be unfair to break up their home after finally providing a stable and safe environment for the children. 2 of the kids had been in intense therapy for years and were finally starting to settle in and calm down. The couple has developed an amazing co-parenting dynamic and even friendship, but there's no intimacy or romantic love between them. She says she's not interested in relationships anymore and is content with her life as it is. The husband, however, isn't as happy. He misses having a loving relationship with her, but he knows there's no going back. He stays because he doesn't want to disrupt the children's lives. It's unusual to witness, but I respect that they've managed to keep things together for the sake of the kids. They don't fight at all. Last story. Am I the a-hole for leaving my husband after he won a large sum of money? My 32 female husband, 36 male, was in a work accident several years ago, and he won a court case in which he was awarded a sum in the multi-millions. My husband and I live in the US and have been struggling for years, especially since his accident, since he hasn't been able to work a job in his specialty since. He's mainly been working minimum to low-wage jobs because his degree and trade experience are in an industry his body can no longer work in. I make pretty good money, but again, we live in the economical hellscape that is America. In the last year since the settlement, my husband has become the most smug, stuck up, pretentious man I've ever known, and I'm sick of it. Our friends and family aren't good enough for us anymore because now we have money. Our home and cars and clothes weren't good enough for us, and anyone with a small house, paid-off car, or mall clothes was sad and depressing. He judges people hard, and he is not quiet about it. He is mean and rude to the people we interact with. Of course, we got nicer things when he received his money, but he was adamant on luxury things. And to him, anyone who doesn't live in a mansion on the hills with a Lamborghini and Gucci shoes is embarrassing. He gets upset with me for not wanting to spend crazy amounts of money. Why would I buy a $2,000 pair of shoes when I can get a pair just like it for $60? It feels like giving a child with no concept of money $20 and setting them free in a Dollar Tree. He's bought me a ton of expensive clothes and jewelry, new electronics. He pays for high-end spa days and even bought me a new car. I feel like an ungrateful woman for saying this, but I don't really like the gifts. Nothing is my style or taste. He's buying it just because it's expensive. My husband harasses me daily to quit the job I love and says that I make us look bad by working and making us still look poor. He gets upset if I want to go to the same chain restaurants we've always liked, Buffalo Wild Wings, Jack in the Box, etc., instead of 5-star Michelin steakhouses and sushi places because we can afford it now. He's even gone as far as trying to push me towards plastic surgery because we can't afford it, so why not? He suggested a boob job, BBL, lip filler, and at one point, that surgery where they removed the bottom rib. I feel like he's starting to think I don't look good enough for him and our new lifestyle. We've gone to couples therapy, but his attitude isn't improving. It's even gotten worse, and I'm miserable. This is not the man I married. I don't want to have kids and raise a family with him, but I'm afraid that if I leave, everyone will cry gold digger. We married when we were young and broke, and didn't consider a prenup because we had nothing. Dumb, I know, but we were kids. Am I the a-hole? No, leave him. He's going to blow through that money soon enough. Keep all the gifts and sell them once you are divorced. He's told you to get plastic surgery. If you don't, he will just cheat because he knows gold diggers will be after him. Yes, he will waste it all away. Get out and find peace and love. Leave. Not only will he waste all that money away in no time, he will go into huge debt in order to maintain the lifestyle and image that he wants to project to the world. If OP doesn't leave soon, she will be on the hook for all the debt that he incurs via loans and credit cards, after wasting all the money he was awarded. He is exactly like those stupid lottery winners who end up living in a broken-down trailer at the end of a dirt road, hiding from collection agencies and people who still think they have money. OP is not the a-hole, but she needs to divorce now. Not the a-hole. I would also be very afraid of that level of spending, in addition to him being an insufferable prick. I mean, multi-million sounds like a lot, but is it 4 million or 20 million? In general, you can live off investments, assuming the money is invested, but the rule of thumb is 4% of the amount, if you want the money to last. And you need it to last. You guys are young. Let's say it is $5 million. That means the 4% amount before taxes is $200K a year income. This equals roughly $141K a year after taxes. That is not Gucci and Lambo money. You know, most lottery winners are broke after a couple of years, and it sounds like your husband is on the same path. I would make sure you are saying in counseling that you are not enjoying things just because they are expensive. You liked your old life, minus the financial stress. You liked him when he enjoyed his simpler things, and you want him to stop acting like an entitled a-hole. Also, I suggest you quietly go talk to a lawyer and find out what the financial split would be. Depending on where you live, you might not be entitled to any of it, or you might be entitled to a reasonable split. If you are entitled to a reasonable share, you can always go for less and settle for, say, 1 to 2 million. That would be enough to have a great retirement if you invested it and kept working for 15 or 20 years. This man is going to burn through all that money, and once it hits him that it's over, he's going to go from smug jackass to an incredibly bitter and oppressed one. I hate to say get out while the getting is good, but your advice is spot on. Update. Thinking about leaving my wife and child. Thoughts? Original post. I-32 male will be real. If it hadn't been for my son, I would have ended the marriage already. Things weren't good back then between us. Wife and I are going to marriage counseling because I confessed to her I was falling out of love and wasn't happy in the marriage anymore, so she insisted we try to work out our problems. We did try it. Open up, have communication better, try to be more affectionate with each other and connect more as a couple. More romantic date nights and spontaneous trips. Basically to find that spark again. None of it worked and I was ready to call it quits after a year, until we found out she was pregnant. Now, for me, I always thought we were set on never ever having kids. That was something mentioned when we were first dating, and I was pretty relieved she felt the same way about not wanting kids. To me, I just never liked them. Not what I wanted for my life at all. But once we found out, she wanted to keep the baby. It was a whole other conflict. I didn't want to be a father, but she wanted him. For a while, I kept bringing up the options of termination or maybe adopting, but in the end, that didn't go anywhere. Then I thought, okay, well, parents split up all the time even with kids involved. However, that just gave me a lot of backlash from everyone about what an a-hole I am, because who even thinks about leaving their pregnant wife? I feel my biggest mistake was letting myself believe that maybe with a family we can make it work. Being there for her and the baby, that I just get that love for them, it'll work out along with the therapy we had done. Now I feel even more miserable. We have family time, date nights when we manage to get a sitter, free time to ourselves every other weekend if possible. I just hate it all. The only time I'm actually content is when I'm not home or get to have a little personal time. Everything going on at home makes me wish I left before there was even a chance of her getting pregnant. But I felt bad not trying to get some help first before throwing in the towel in our marriage. Now there's a baby involved, and it's 1,000 times more complicated. I don't feel any closer to my wife or my son, who's about 13 months now. It's not his fault, I get it, he's a baby. Right now it's been a lot easier to manage and thought by now I might feel closer to him. Sadly, I don't. Part of me just wants to pack my stuff and leave already. That part makes me feel horrible because I'm his father and would it feel right to leave him without one? Just don't know if I can be what they need me to be anymore. Is there really any way to stop feeling this way? At this point, it's like I want to walk out and never look back. But is that really the best thing? Edit. For those curious, we did not have unprotected action. Never wanted to end up in the scenarios or rubbers were always used and she said she was on birth control. That's how it always was in the years we've been together. It's been brought to my attention that I should probably mention this detail for better advice. I just didn't want to include it before because it was done in the past and my son is already here. But yes, I talked to my wife if this was done deliberately, the pregnancy I mean, and she never denied she had anything to do with tampering. It's still on me for being intimate with her regardless, but she did have something to do with it. Like I said though, I didn't want to focus on that because my son is here anyways, and nothing could be done about it now. Now for the top advice before reading the update. You should leave. Your marriage should have ended years ago, and staying in a bad relationship just because of a baby is never healthy. Your wife deserves someone who will love her. Your son deserves growing up in a home where he is loved and wanted by all the adults in it. And no matter how much you try to fake it, kids can sense when their presence isn't really wanted. And you deserve a partner whom you do love and wanted to be with. None of you can get those things until you firmly admit once and for all that it isn't working for you and never will and put an end to it. You can still be his father without living there, and a bit of distance might even improve your relationship with him because you would be happier with your life in general once divorced, and because it would allow you to spend time with him away from his mom, who you freely admit you haven't wanted to be with for years. Tell your wife it's over. If she wants to try counseling again, agree to going, but warn her that you will be informing the counselor up front that the marriage is over. And you're only there to help your wife come to terms with that fact, move your stuff out, and file for divorce and at least visitation with your son. This is sound advice, thank you. I agree I should have walked out a long time ago before a kid was even in the mix. It was hard. Still is. Hope leaving the marriage does improve what I have with my son. The feelings I'm having right now are not what I want to be having years down the road with him, when it becomes more obvious. And get a vasectomy so you don't have to worry about this with any future partners. Get a divorce. I grew up in a house with parents who hated each other. They didn't fight, but they didn't engage with each other either. I also learned at a young age that my father never wanted children. It was a miserable way to grow up. It didn't help any of us kids. I was so grateful when they finally got divorced. Now as an adult, I have a great relationship with my father. It doesn't mean you have to be an absent father or a bad one, but that is your son and you'll have to decide how much of a relationship you want with him. As another poster stated, you may become a better father when you're out of the marriage. Staying helps no one. Did your relationship with your father improve because of the divorce or because you reached adulthood? Since I have heard some parents get along better with their kids once they're older and more mature. A lot of it was because I got older. I think it became easier for him to relate to me more as a teenager and adult than as a small child. He wasn't a terrible father, but he was clearly unhappy and that had a big impact on how he treated us kids. I firmly believe if they had divorced when I was a child, our relationship would have improved sooner. He may have resented us as kids, but it was made worse because he was also in a relationship he hated. It was a cycle. Once that was broken, things got even better. You can separate from her or even divorce her, but you are still legally and morally responsible for your child. The legal requirement is primarily financial. Even if you have your parental rights terminated, that does not lose you your financial obligations, unless she gets someone else to adopt your child with her. But morally, you know you have an obligation to the child. Have you considered talking to a therapist about how you might get more attached to your child, whether or not you stay with your wife? Because these are two separate issues. To answer your last question, yes, I started seeing a therapist individually when my son was around 7 months. She's helped people who've suffered from PPD, and I've been talking to her about the things I'm going through with my son. That's something I've been working on for months, because I don't want him to feel that I resent him as he gets older. And now for the update. I almost forgot that I had posted this, but thought I should add an update after all the help. Things have been tough, but getting easier day by day. I left my wife, soon to be ex. It was rough. Needed to happen though. If I wanted things to improve for my son's sake, I couldn't let myself continue to be stuck in this marriage I wanted out of already. For those who suggested this way and why, you were right. It's helped a lot. Not so much the first few weeks. It was so new, and I didn't have a place on my own. For about a month, I stayed with family until I found a place for myself and where my son can also stay. My soon-to-be ex obviously didn't take this well. She's brought some family members on her side for abandoning my family. But I didn't abandon my son. When I spoke to a lawyer and got the paperwork started, we also got a temporary custody order to make sure I'd still have time with him. It's only 3 days out of the week, but we'll settle custody stuff as we go through the divorce proceedings to get more time with him. Honestly, the time away really has boosted me up in ways I couldn't imagine. When my son is with me now, I feel lighter. Not trapped like I felt back then, and I know in my heart I can't ever not be in his life. No matter how he came into this world or what she did, he's innocent in this. Still seeing the same therapist, and I've been more open about my past to really get to the root of my actual issues in regards to the disconnect I had been feeling with my son. Since some of you really encouraged me to be honest to my therapist about what happened. Feels like there's been lots of improvement, and it makes me so hopeful for the relationship I can have with him in the future. He is still so little, and I know there's time to learn to be the dad he needs me to. Thank you so much to all of you here who took the time to really give me solid, amazing advice. At least I know that this was the best decision to make. And now I get to fully try to bond with my son without any negative feelings about my marriage pulling me back. I'm glad that things are looking up, and that it's improving your relationship with your son. Keep up the hard work and good luck with everything. Not all perfect right now, but it's a start. I haven't felt this hopeful for the future in a long time. It's like a breath of fresh air. Yo, as one of many children with divorced parents, A, good on you for splitting sooner rather than later. B, see if y'all can work out a schedule that's not days of the week but weeks of the month. It's freaking blue, packing up my stuff all the time to get tossed around once or twice a week over some disagreement over custody. I don't take it too hard if your kid has a rough time making that switch. I love my dad, but man was I always in a sour mood when he came to pick me up. just because I had no close friends living nearby. Best of luck to you. I hope you all find happiness. Just to give some hope, OP, when my wife and I split, she did not care for it at all. The court ordered 3 days every other week, but we never stuck to that and I had them often. Maybe she'll be open to that when she cools down. I'd like to believe that. Last thing she said is she'll make sure I can never see him anymore. If those were words of anger or she was serious, well, I don't know, but I'll fight for time. Always communicate through text and voicemails. If you live in a single-party consent state, then record your conversations with her too and give them to your lawyer. Threatening to take away your parental role out of spite is not going to look good for her in court. Luckily we do, and I've managed to bait her twice after I moved to my new apartment and asked to see my son, which she refused unless I came home. It's all in text. You can't argue with the evidence. You made the right choice, OP. I'm glad you are now feeling better and bonding with your kid. Keep it up. This is a place I was afraid I'd never manage to get to, but I'm happy that I did. It's not perfect, and there's still issues that need to be worked on further. But the fact that I can actually play with my son and hold him and think, God, I love this kid, it's so much better than where my head was a few months ago. Now for the last story. I, 28 male, have been with my girlfriend, 27 female, for nearly 3 years. She keeps hinting at buying a house and booking views, but some things have come to light this past year, and I'm not fully sold on financially tying myself to her. At the start of this year, my girlfriend turned her notifications off on her WhatsApp and Snapchat applications. When I had hovered over her shoulder, I saw that she was messaging someone. Let's call him Harry. After catching her at the right moment, as in just scrolling past a photo of Harry on her Facebook feed, I casually said, "Who is that?" Since she didn't know I knew she was messaging him, it came across as a random question. After I asked her the question, she started reeling off how he was obsessed with her in school and asked her out multiple times over the course of 5 years. Obviously, this didn't sit right with me because Harry's single, and if he was obsessed then, he probably is now. Plus, their conversations clearly aren't PG in my eyes, as it warranted her to turn off notifications on the apps she was talking to him on. To cut this story short, I snooped on her phone and found that she had deleted both chat logs on both apps. But I found something else that worried me. During our dating period, we had visited all different places like York, lakes, and even glamping. So I can say we were pretty obviously exclusive, especially since we deleted our dating apps. However, I found a text messages to her ex of 7 years saying, "What was I supposed to do? You said it was over and you didn't want to sort it, so I've moved on." And another said, "Just unblock me, I want to sort it out." This one was while we were away in New York and obviously having a good time. The worst thing is that, at the time, she mistakenly called me by her ex's name, and I thought nothing of it since she'd been in a relationship with him for over 7 years, the benefit of the doubt and all that. Then on her Facebook Messenger, she had messaged saying, "I can't talk to you as I'm with someone and it's disrespectful towards him." Yet I found more messages after the last Christmas saying Happy Christmas and "I'll speak to you around your birthday." He replied saying how it's stressing him out her messaging him, but she continued anyway. I always found it odd why he had messaged me when we first got together, saying he was going to smash my head in, and messaged her saying that she's his, and that my teeth are getting knocked out. I just put it down to 7 years and that he's an obsessive ex, as they do exist. Back to the issue. I raised it and got a balking for going on her phone, which was fair enough. But after trying to deflect it on me, I finally got to the bottom of it, and she said that she was sorry and all that, and she can't remember why she was saying that at the time, and can only apologize and turned her notifications on again. So I did what I always do, and forgave her but never forgot. Now coming down to looking at houses. I kept sending her houses and she was never replying, until I vocally told her I'd sent them. Turns out her Snapchat and WhatsApp notifications are off again, and I mentioned it. She said there's a group chat she's part of on WhatsApp that gets spammed, so I told her how to mute it and expressed how it's vital. She looks and sees my messages on time for us to buy a house, which remembers her idea. She wants to do this. Anyways, I tested out a week later and she still got the notifications off. Now, I know I said let it go, but now she's turned her notifications off again. It just brings it all back. And honestly, I have this gut feeling that she's going to screw me over, and I'll be financially tied to her if I get a joint mortgage. We also have a dog, which complicates things further. You see, from my point of view, I had an obsessive ex. Each time she messaged me, I told my girlfriend what she said and when she said it. I made it clear to my ex multiple times I didn't want anything to do with her yet. My current girlfriend was sending happy birthday and happy Christmas messages to the ex that said he would smash my head in, and repeatedly told her that she was his, instead of just telling him how it is and blocked. I know the messages were from nearly 3 years ago, and I know the other messages were just happy birthday and happy Christmas last year, but it's also the stuff with Harry, which I never mentioned, but I gathered it was something she shouldn't have done, since she made a point of deleting the conversations. At the start of the relationship, I set a boundary which was, I just want to be with a person that hasn't disrespected me in any way, shape, or form, and that included messaging exes or other lads in a way that would be disrespectful towards me. It'd make me look like a fool. Regardless of how I've left it, and I've left it 12 months, I just feel like something eventually is going to happen, and I just can't shake the gut feeling she had an emotional affair with Harry behind my back. Trust your gut, man. Always. It's usually right. I think all of your concerns are valid, and it doesn't seem like she's trying to remove them from her life either. The fact that he threatened you and she sends him Christmas messages and birthday messages is enough BS for me to call it quits. And honestly, even if you're wrong, you clearly don't trust her. You shouldn't be in a relationship with someone you don't trust, much less buy a house with them. I counted here. Don't buy a house with someone you're not married to. That is all. Yeah, this. I bought a house with my boyfriend/best friend of literal decades, and I'm still in the process of trying to disentangle, 4 years after our breakup. Are you me? It's such a pain. I've told my current significant other I really don't care about marriage and the romantic BS behind it, but we have to be married for legal reasons when we buy a property and build, because I'm not going through this again. You're acting shady. Yeah, I know, I'll stop. Some weeks. You're still acting shady. Yeah, I know, I'll stop. Some more weeks. You're acting shady. Yeah, I know, I'll stop. Many more weeks? Why? No kidding. It wants to tie himself to her financially? Makes me wonder if she wants to buy a house, so when she leaves him, she'll get half of the proceeds of the sale or he'll have to buy her out. Either way, she'll walk away with a nice chunk of change.